Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome along to the NLR Esports League. As you can already tell, we are going into qualifying, and I've just realised that I'm on the wrong stream overlay as we get into the lobby. You shouldn't be seeing us loading into the lobby just yet, but we are indeed loading into the lobby. My name is James Head, of course, going to be taking through the stream on this fine Sunday afternoon where we've just had a terrorist alert coming through our phones here by the UK government. Joining me in the comment box below, it is Mr. Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
Doing very well, yeah. Recovered from the very weird sensation of having my phone go off without me having any control over it. It was a bit of a weird one, but yeah, going into what potentially is going to be a really good evening of racing tonight. It's obviously a very unique circuit to the calendar and to Formula One. So yeah, looking forward to it.
It is indeed, and we'll have a look actually at the driver's standing. Oh, not the driver's standings, the team standings actually coming into tonight, because there was a lot of changes actually from the racing and indeed, of course, the qualifying that we had, of course, last week. FER still lead the way on 154 points. NLR in second on 116 points. They had a fantastic week, I've got to say, last week. JL there in third on 102. QRT in fourth on 50, tied with VRT actually in fourth, also on 50. They're in fifth, though, with the amount of points that they picked up. ERT in sixth on 44 after Kieran's absolute godsend in the last two races. M&T in 7th on 39, that's Team Mentalism. GSP in 8th on 16, and then PGS and IRT are tied for the wooden spoon at this stage, right down the back of the field on 15 points, as we get, of course, in towards Q1 here in qualifying. We'll run through the track map as well. That is 5.7 kilometres and then 3.5 mile, and we do have 11 corners away now. Drivers out on track. 2 DRS zones, one down the start finish straight, one down the back straight, down the Retroposta, not down the Curva del Serralio in towards Ascari, I should say. Retroposta should be set up for a fantastic night's worth of racing, as OBS just decided to die on me, and now it's back, so we're all good.
All good, yeah. Hopefully it's going to be a lovely afternoon of racing. Hopefully, we've already briefly mentioned before we went live that the last thing we want here at Monza is a bit of rain, because that will definitely nullify the racing. But yeah, this is definitely a very interesting circuit. Going to be an interesting night. Qualifying as well. Obviously, this is one of the many tracks that you can see the toe be used for a lot of the circuit. Pretty much, you might find a lot of drivers actually sticking within 1 second of a car on a qualifying lap and just following them for the entire circuit, because the benefit of the toe can be so big. So it's definitely a unique circuit, and it provides a different challenge to what we've seen so far this season. So again, it's another track where we could see a new team come to the front, and where strategy could play more of a factor than we have seen most parts of this season. So yeah, going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it is going to be very interesting indeed. Looking through the comment section, by the way, good evening to everyone, or good afternoon, I should say, to everyone that is tuning in. It's very dark, by the way, in my room, so I might have to put the light on in a second. I think it's raining outside, which is not that great whatsoever. It is a typical northeast England day. Timo, as you can tell, the first man out on track. Looking through the comments, though, good evening, good afternoon to Fabian, good afternoon to Oliver there, PGS Fraser, who was a new signing for PGS as well. He looks like he could go for pole position, he says. All drive for the races I saw on the Discord, and as Felix has pointed out, and Wizzy supporting NLR, of course, out on track as well. We're right on board with Timo, of course, on the traditional set of intermediate compound tyres to begin off this session. The tyre graphic, by the way, on the left-hand side is the current tyre that everyone is on. I'm going to stick to that because I think it's better for you guys as viewership to watch on board with, to see when that comes in towards the... I've got the chicanes already. To 26.7 anyways in the first sector through the Della Roger chicane, the second chicane, not the Retrofreezer chicane. I will get mixed up as the night goes on. But Timo in towards now the first Lesmo, and then of course in towards the right-hander of the second Lesmo. Not to be confused with anything that might be going through your mind at this stage. As Timo now comes through the right-hander of the second Lesmo, now down the course Curva del Serralio, which is this little kink coming down the straight, down into the second DRS detection point as well. And we should see a lot of big speeds around this track. 214 mile an hour actually on braking. Intrascori, 54.671 in the middle sector from Timo, as now comes on the exit of Ascari in towards what will be, of course, Parabolica named as this season. Of course, it was named last season after the Curva Alboreto. Of course, Michele Alboreto, the famous driver who sadly passed away, I believe, a couple of weeks before the Italian Grand Prix was actually held. As Timo really hanging off camber there, coming through the Curva Alboreto on the run toward the line with Timo. Not too far off actually dry running around here. 22.5 is only around 4 or 5 seconds off what we should be expecting in the drives. But Timo there out on top. Of course, everyone is out on a set of intermediates, bar Oni Katsuni is the only man, I think, Aidan, that is on a set of medium compound tyres. He's the only one on drives.
Yeah, it looks like it. I've just actually seen AJ Wuhan and IRT Leon are out on the track on a set of soft compound tyres. Leon's just started his first flying lap on a set of soft, so I wonder if we're going to see IRT do what they did in Kota and work together and give each other a tow. So that would be a good strategy, and why not test it in the first part of the session as well? So Leon will be hopefully the first beneficiary of that behind his teammate. We've got more intermediate times coming in. Jonah and Marlon going into second and third for the Juventus team. That's actually a really good lap time on a set of intermediates for Timo there on a 22.5. Krypton's gone just behind him as well. We've got a yellow flag as FER Kin's now gone to the top of the timesheets, as Leon on that set of soft compound tyres, who was going to maybe try the tow, has invalidated in the Enquiries chicane, so he will not be improving from the back of the field. So the only other person on a lap then will be AJ Wuhan. He is just starting his soft tyre run now, so we'll see what he can do, but you would imagine he will dip under the 20s into the 19s at least on a set of soft compound tyres. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll also keep an eye, of course, on One Kitsune, who's just starting his lap on a set of medium compound tyres. And One Kitsune could definitely be one to look out for. Him and Agent Tajin were the pairing that they had back in Spa, of course, in that race. A little bit changeable conditions there, but that was by far Team Mentalism's best performance of the season, was at Spa with those two drivers. So they're fielding their strongest lineup of the season so far, once again here at Monza. So they could be a driver pairing to potentially look out for tonight.
Yeah, definitely so, and only Kitsune on that set of mediums. AJ Wuhan through the first sector, 27.3 in the first sector, but has absolutely butchered the Della Roger chicane, and I mean completely slaughtered the Della Roger chicane in terms of the braking zone in towards the left-handed part of the section. I think he got caught on the inside curb and then spun, and then tried to correct the car, but in the end he lost all of that speed away. This is not going to be a good middle sector at all from AJ Wuhan on his lap. He has backed up, as you can tell. He's running a very low 8th gear on the run down in towards the score. There's 56.6 in the middle sector, so it is respectable. Going forward with Oni Katsuni, who's down into this part of the track. Actually, 53.4. He's actually slightly quicker than what Timo was doing in the middle sector. But again, a little bit wide coming out of a score. It's very difficult to get in the middle of the corner, especially if you lose the traction out of there. And if you lose control of the car, it's very difficult to try and recover the car. That's why you've seen in passing league racing around here, drivers going in the wall on the right-hand side and the left-hand side, because they can't really control mid-corner, and that is the difficulty of something like this track. There's only Katsuni now on the run-to line, goes to the top with a 20.6. Of course, we're going to get into the 19s, probably around an 18.7, 18.6, I'm thinking, pole position as well. Wuhan there is on another lap, actually, on that Red Bull. He saved up all that battery to go on for another lap. QRT Alpha is out there on a set of mediums, as well as Leo, who's there on a set of soft compound tyres, and Papine has just put himself up into 8th position as well. But only Katsuni out on top, Kintex in second, Timo there in third. Not the most exciting start to Q1, I've got to be honest, but it's like this every single week.
Yeah, it's like this every week, isn't it? As everybody struggles to figure out what to do with their tyre strategy in this qualifying sessions, with the lack of dry tyres that they're given for this. So, yeah, most drivers out on intermediates, as you would expect, and then we'll go for a soft run at the end of the session. We've got more drivers starting some medium runs. QRT Alpha just started a run on the medium compound tyres in the Mercedes, so it'll be a good kind of reference point to see where they are in comparison to One Kitsune. But yeah, One Kitsune's first medium lap, not really representative at all. That is quite a way off the optimum pace, so maybe a bit more fuel potentially in that car, and he may be going for a few more runs. But actually, as I say that, I look at his dashboard and his fuel light is flashing, so there was no fuel in that car. So not a great lap, unfortunately, for Kitsune on those medium compound tyres. He will definitely go again on the stuff. Spicer is also out on the track now on a set of medium tyres as well, having done a run on the Inters, so he'll get a time on the board as well. So AJ Wuhan now to the top of the timesheets, but a 20.4 on his second lap on the softs. You can do multiple laps on a set of softs around here. Tyre wear is not really an issue around Monza. It never really has been. It's not a particularly difficult track on tyres. So the second lap is never usually that much slower than the first, but a 20.4 again on the set of softs is not particularly fast.
Yeah, and with QLT Alpha actually going 4 tenths quicker than him in the middle sector on the set of medium compound tyres, you would expect that QRT with Alpha is going to go to the top step of the podium. Currently, in terms of Q1, of course, Wuhan might be one of the favourites to go out of Q1. Have to wait and see. He's got Alpha now on the run toward the line. Should go quickest, I think, this lap, and indeed he does. I think it's 4 tenths improvement on AJ Wuhan, back 3 tenths in the end from AJ Wuhan in second. Oni Katsuni there in third. Urpek there is on a set of intermediate compound tyres still. Leo as well is on lap, the IRT man, the other IRT man who's making his debut, I believe, here in the NLR Esports League event. As he now comes through the left-hander of Ascari through turn number 10. He's a bit snappy coming out of there. But at 53.4, maybe put him ahead of his teammate, I think, at this stage. Alpha though out on top, Wuhan there in second, Oni Katsuni there in third. So we approach the halfway stages here in qualifying. Everyone, of course, waiting to go onto that set of soft compound tyres. You can see everyone lined up on that set of softs. Yona is one of the first to go out on that set of soft compound tyres. Leo does go ahead of his teammate, only by 17 hundredths of a second. But Aiden, the IRT boy, second and third, 20.4 and a 20.4. Compared to Alpha on a 20.1, he's going to improve about 8 tenths to a second, I think, on his lap. Surely IRT are probably favourites to go out in Q1.
Yeah, you've got to say that they're not looking great in this qualifying session. That is not competitive on that set of soft compound tyres. So, yeah, they're not looking great. We obviously still haven't seen some other drivers further down the field yet. We don't really know who's representative and who isn't. I think it's safe to say, based on track record this season, we are going to see at least one of the ERT drivers out in Q1. That's kind of been the way of the world it has been, and potentially it might be Puppy. He's struggled a lot when he has been in the car this season, so he may be another one who's on the chopping block for Q1. But yeah, IRT not done well in this session so far with their first runs on the soft compound tyres. And of course, having done an early run on a set of softs, that means they don't have another set of softs for maybe later on in the session if they do get through. So that's not particularly helped them. So here comes Leon. I don't know if Leon is on a lap or not. I couldn't actually tell. I don't think he is, but he was really pulling up to the back of that Williams directly in front of him on the road. As Spicer has now gone P2 on his set of medium compound tyres, but still 3/10 behind Alpha, who's currently on provisional pole. So yeah, more times coming in, but the fact that Leon and AJ Wuhan are behind two medium runners after their first runs is not a good sign.
Yeah, definitely not. In spite of there in second, only being 1200ths of a second ahead of Leo might give them a little bit of confidence. This man, though, I think might have confidence with him in bounds here tonight. The JR man of Yona has just started his lap now, coming through Curva Grande at turn number 3. This man has won a championship around here before, and he's done very well in TML, I've got to say, around here in the past. 26.2 in the first sector, already 6 cents up on his personal best. Purple in the first sector. He is a lively outsider, I will say, a lively outsider, potentially even for pole position here tonight. He has been struggling with no assist, of course, on this game, but if he comes right, this man is one to watch out for as he now comes through the right-hander of the second Lesbill, now down the Curva del Serrallo in towards the Scori. This has looked a very neat lap, I've got to say, from Yona at this stage. Coming in towards this middle sector split, this is more like it in the middle sector. 53.1 in the middle sector, already 4/10 up on Alpha. And looking very, very good, as I say, beautiful through a Ascari, and Yona is on an absolute cracking lap here. I believe Marlon is the next one to come across the line as well. He's just started on a run in behind. He's actually coming through a Ascari there. As I say that, as Yona now comes in towards Parabolica through turn number 11 at the final corner. This will look like a very neat lap from Yona. He should go top, I think, towards around a 19.9. Yona to the line, 19.8. Even better than my prediction there. Yona, though, goes quickest. Marlon there coming in toward the final corners on the run to the line, and he goes third, just behind Alpha, so puts him on the bubble potentially a little bit later on. Onikatsuni now goes quicker with a 19.5, so Onikatsuni out on top, Yona in second, Alpha in third. But everyone now on a set of soft compound tyres out there, including the FBR man of Justin, who is purple in the first sector. Remains to be seen what everyone can do in this session, as I'm right on board with Justin through this middle sector split in terms of Yona's time. 52.9 in the middle sector. Justin is absolutely flying.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job at the moment on this lap. It's looking neat and tidy. That was a good lap as well for Kitsune on the board. The Juventus cars are going to have to go again. That is not safe for either of the Juventus cars in this qualifying session, which is not something we're used to seeing at all in qualifying. So here comes Justin then around the final corner, around the Parabolica. Where can he put his AlphaTauri? Surely this will put him to the top of the timesheets, you would imagine, as he crosses the line, and it does not. He does not go fastest. He's behind Kitsune. So I didn't see if Kitsune got a tow. By the looks of where his teammate is on the road, I don't think he did. I don't think his teammate's anywhere near him on the road. They did a lap at the same time. So that is just pure speed from Kitsune that's put him at the top of the timesheets. Good lap then from the Team Mentalist and driver Justin in second. You would say the top two are pretty safe. Maybe make that the top three now as Poker's gone P3. Good lap there from the Ferrari as we've got, I think, a yellow flag somewhere. That's just Agent Decision slowing down. I think maybe a little bit out of fuel, but never mind. We have got an Alfa Romeo off the road. That is Stretch, who was on a lap. So I don't know if Stretch has potentially become a cropper to potentially a bit of blocking somewhere in the opening part of the lap.
Yeah, I think so. He was just starting on the lap when I were on board with him. Kintix, by the way, is purple in the middle sector. He's on the run toward the line. Should go quickest, and he does. 19.530. 600 quicker there than Onikatsuni. Stretch, though, yeah, I believe he has got blocked on his lap. He was certainly breaking in toward the Della Rocha chicane there, and I can only assume because of that, he has backed off as a result of that blocking. Unfortunate for him, the PGS man has got a good lap within him. Of course, Fraser there, who's really new to the team. I think he got signed yesterday to PGS, if I'm not mistaken. They're in 9th position. He's doing a good job and a solid job, actually, on debut here in his team event, in the first team event for PGS. Under representation. Papine just starting up on a lap as well. QRT Leo was on a lap as well. Another lively outsider potentially to make it in towards Q3. Kintix though out on top. Onikatsuni there in seconds. I gone ball with Stretch by accident. There is Leo on the run there down in towards Parabolica once again. Kintix, Onikatsuni just in top 3. Let me know who you're supporting, by the way, in the chat. There's 19 of you. I'm one of them. Aiden's probably another. So 17 of you tuning into the stream. Let me know who you're supporting in the chat. And of course, we read out the comments as we go along, as Leo now comes to the line and actually goes second. Somehow fits himself into a Mercedes-shaped gap. in between Kinsix and Onikatsuni with 3.5 minutes to go, just over that in the session. Leo in second. QRT, gotta say, very good performance so far, but as we've seen in previous races, FBR, Justin, and especially Kinsix there on pole position, first and fourth, they seem to have it between themselves. And NLR currently, both of them are on their laps at the minute. I think Papina's purple in the middle sector, so I'm literally about to say they're on the bubble of going out in Q1, but Papina and Urpec are going quicker in the middle sector, so they should get comfortably into Q2.
You would think so, yeah, but we thought that about Urpec last time, didn't we? And he ended up getting knocked out in Q1 with a really rough performance. So it's hard to say as Urpec comes up towards the final corner. Pepin will be the first, Pepin will be the first to finish his time as he comes up towards the line. Shortest one on the right-hand side as he crosses the line. It's a 19.8, goes P7. That should be relatively safe. Here comes Urpec, crosses the line, and he goes fastest. So a 19.3, good lap there from Urpec to go to the top of the timesheets, and that's on his second lap on that set of tyres as well. So maybe burnt off a bit of fuel and went again, but lovely lap from Urpec. He is comfortably at the top of the timesheets by nearly 0.2 of a second. So we're just waiting to see what Stretch can do, as well as the two IRTs, whether they can improve on their time. Spicer's not done a lap on the soft compound tyres yet. His fastest lap is on the medium, so he needs to get a good time on the board as well. Alpha's on another lap as well. I think he's coming through the final corner now, so we'll see where the other QRT driver can go. His teammate currently third. Can Alpha put himself comfortably through into Q2 with this lap time as he comes up towards the line now, crosses the line, and he goes 7th, so that should put him comfortably through as well. So yeah, good qualifying session so far from QRT. A lot of good drivers up there at the front of the field, but yeah, as we kind of predicted earlier on, the team most in trouble at the moment here is IRT.
Yeah, definitely so. Now, AJ Wuhan, actually, speaking of IRT, has just started up on a lap coming in towards his first sector split. 26.3, respectful. A 10th.5 up in the first sector. He needs to find improvement. That was better, actually, coming through the Delaware chicane. But again, very, very high in terms of the revving there. You can hear it actually coming through my TV, I think. The revving coming through on there. And AJ Wuhan trying to get that floor down. Everyone, I would say, from Agent to Gene is probably in trouble here, because if Wuhan does improve in this middle sector and he's 5-6 tenths up, it's going to put everyone on notice, and Wuhan through this middle sector is 3 tenths up, so he's actually putting everyone on notice with this lap. Could go ahead of Pappy, could go ahead of Tajin with this lap. Very neat coming through Ascari, and IRT are looking to try and get at least one of their two drivers into Q2, I think for the first time in quite a while, to be honest. But AJ Wuhan there in towards the final couple of corners. The team that has struggled recently to get through out of Q2 could be on the brink of getting out of Q2 with AJ Wuhan on the run toward the line. Goes the man for IRT on the run to the line, and he goes ahead of Tajin, exactly where I expect him to do. Good improvement there, 19.9. Everyone behind him is not going to retire from the session, because now this is game time, and GSP Spicer, who's backed off his lap, he's there in 18th, and he's in trouble.
Yeah, he is in big trouble. He's got to get this next one done as well. Another one in the drop zone is Marlon for Juventus. He is in the drop zone, and he's not got an optimal line through the first chicane there. He was a little bit late on the brakes, so he's got to get a good lap in as well. So has Timo at the moment, currently P16, so he's got to get a good lap in as well. So a lot of drivers a little bit out of position in this lap session at the moment. IRT Leon's currently 6 tenths up on his personal best, so if he can nail this final sector, this should put Leon comfortably through into the second part of qualifying. So we'll see what he can do as he comes up towards the parabolic around the final corner. Then he's got the Ferrari just in front of him on the road. I believe that is Max, who's just starting up on a lap at the moment, currently P10. Here comes Leon then around the final corner and up towards the line, goes to the right hand side for the shortest run to the line. Can he put himself into Q2, crosses the line, goes second, so that is comfortably through. Lovely lap there from Leon. They were just kind of throwing us off the scent in the first ones, weren't they? They really weren't making us pay attention, but yeah, a lot of drivers are in a bad position here, trying to see what Marlon's doing, and Marlon's not improving. Marlon is not improving. Marlon's going to be out here.
He is. He was really shaky. He was 300 down coming out of Ascari, but he just lost so much time coming out of Ascari by making that slight mistake on the outside curve. The JR man is in trouble, makes another mistake coming out of Parabolica, and this is an absolute blistering final sector. He is out. He knows it. He is frustrated. He does improve. Purple in terms of his personal best. Timo's now the one potentially in trouble. ELT could get both of their drivers through. Pappy, I believe, is on a lap as well. He's actually invalidated, so Pappy's on the bubble. Fraser at the minute is on the bubble, but he's improving by 0.04 of a second. That is enough to think Pappy potentially down into 15. Krypton is out. Marlon is out for sure. Stretch is on a lap as well on the run toward the line. He gets himself to 13th, so Fraser now is in trouble as he comes in toward the final couple of corners. Timo's just behind him out on track, but he's improving by 0.5 of a second. I think that's an improvement there from Spicer. In the end, he goes 4th. Fraser there now on the run toward the line. Can the PGS man get out of Q2? Yes, he can. He's through and he's into 10th position. Good lap from him. Timo now the one to possibly stretch out of position, and he does. Timo through and he's into 7th. And Max van der Geis on the bubble there. It is the end of qualifying though. Luckily for him, he is in Q2. But that is probably the closest gap we are going to have between going out in Q1 and getting through to Q2. 4 thousandths of a second, literally minimal gaps between Max van der Geis and Stretch in the end, who just about stretched his legs to nearly get through into Q1. In the end, didn't. He's down in 16th. Both IRT drivers, in fact, one of them in second, the other out. AJ Wuhan in 14th, 17th. Pappy down in 18th. We'll run through the full rest of the grid in just a second when it comes back up down the screen for Timo with that great lap there, coming into 7th position and putting him comfortably into Q2, which is where the qualifying session really does begin in earnest. As Erpek is out on top from Leo there in second, Kintick's there in third, Despiser in fourth, Leo there in fifth. Hopefully the Leos do not start together on the same roll of the grid, because it'll be fun in commentary. Oni Katsuni in sixth, Timo in 7th, Justin there in 8th, Pokeball in 9th, and Tajine ran off the top 10, Fraser in 11th, Alpha there in 12th, Yona 13th, scraping through along with Papine and Max van der Geis in 15th. 4 thousandths of a second, as I mentioned, between Max van der Geis and Stretch, between the gap for Q1 and Q2. AJ Wuhan in 17th is out, along with Pappy. Krypton as well in 19th, and perhaps the big shock, I think, out of all of these guys, the JR Man of Marlon out of the session. So unfortunately, GSP, JR, ERT, IRT, and PGS all down one drivers that go into Q2.
Yeah, really weird qualifying session. In Matt's quite lucky to get through for VRT, like you mentioned, only 4 thousandths of a second, so quite lucky to get through there. There was only one team that had both cars inside the top 10 in that session, and that was Team Mentalism. No other team had both cars inside the top 10, which we've not really seen before. We've seen kind of really the NLR drivers, the FDR drivers, and the Juventus drivers kind of lead the way for the majority of the qualifying sessions, barring maybe a couple of GSP or QRT placements in there every now and then. So yeah, really weird qualifying session. We've not seen one team look particularly strong with both drivers in that session. So yeah, going to be very interesting for Q2. I think it's completely up in the air for how Q2 goes. I think it's more down to whether you can get the lap in. I don't think it's down to pure pace. Everybody's pure pace seems to be fairly similar. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a tough call in this session, trying to make sure you get out into a good bit of track and get the lap in as well as you can. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on what some of these drivers can do, but it's going to be a difficult one to predict. So, but I'm going to pose you a question, James. Who do you think is going to be the ones knocked out here in Q2?
I think one of the Team Mentalism cars could be out in Q2. I think Tajine could be the one, I think, to drop out. I think Fraser could be the drop out for PGS. Who else? Yona, I think he might drop out in Q2, even though I'd say that he was an outside of a pole position, which I think is just totally going back on what I was saying early on. He is one of the first guys out on track, by the way. They're coming through towards the Delaware chicane very shortly. Pokerroll as well, I think he could be out in Q2, as well as Spicer, who I think could be out in Q2. And just to correct you on the fact that you mentioned that Team Mentalism were the only team, unfortunately, to get in the top 10, they weren't. FER were pole and, they were 3rd and 7th in Q1. So there you go.
I'm blind, clearly. Yeah, clearly. I can't tell my colours on my text. I'm a little bit blind, but yeah, only 2. So still a little bit bizarre compared to what we've seen so far this season. But yeah, it's a hard one to predict, this qualifying session. There's a lot of teams are kind of a little bit up and down. You've got to say there are definitely a few drivers you would expect to easily make it through. You've got to say Erpek obviously looked really strong in that first qualifying session. You would expect him to be through. Timo is one you would kind of expect to go through in this session. Leon looked obviously good at the end. Leo, for IRT looked good at the end of that session. He could be one to kind of get through. Oni Katsune looked strong. So there's definitely some drivers you could make a statement for definitely making it through. But apart from maybe 5 drivers that you would definitely consider to easily make it through, the rest of them are all up in the air. I think we've got a spin.
Max van der Geis, he was just preparing up on his lap, and I was literally about to cut you off and say, it looks like he's on a set of used tyres. That's just proved he was on a set of used tyres, because he's just spun, literally overcorrected himself into turn number 1, got deep onto the brakes, overcorrected the car, ended up going for full 180, and unfortunately Max van der Geis is not on his first run. But look at that front left tyre. That is the definition of a used tyre in qualifying, if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. It's kind of a weird spot to spin as well after the first part of the chicane. You usually see them maybe on traction coming at the second part of the Delaware chicane, but yeah, seeing it in the first part was a bit of a weird one there for Max. But yeah, you obviously, like you mentioned, we're going to see a lot of drivers on used sets of tyres here, or potentially a set of mediums if anybody has any, but they're not on them. So these will be the used set tyre runs, but unlike what we saw in COTA, the times for a used set of tyres aren't going to be miles off compared to where they were in COTA. COTA, it was like around a second you dropped on the second lap on a set of tyres. Here it will maybe be what, 4/10 or something around there. It's not going to be a big, it's not going to be a big margin. So there's potential that someone like Urpek, if they can get a really good lap in on a used set, they could potentially get through this qualifying session on a used set of tyres. There is every possibility that could happen, as Leo is the first time on the board, a 20.5, but that's immediately beaten by Yona, who goes 0.3 of a second faster on a 20.2. But to be safe into Q3, you've got to be at least, I'd say, a 19.8, maybe a 19.7.
Oh, I would go even higher than that. I put the threshold potentially to what, a 19.5, 19.6, I think, middle of the road, I think, in terms of the 19s. But Justin there out on top now from Yona in second, 20.2 for him. Kintick's there, 19.7. I think he might be on a fresh set of cues, the fresh set of soft compound tires, I should say, compared to Justin. Pokeball there in second as well. These are the fresh runs, I think, coming on in the early stages, and they're already setting 19.7s, 19.8s. So I think even what you predicted, I think, just 30 seconds ago, I think it's going to be completely and utterly washed as we get through, of course, at the end of Q2. But you never know. You never know. You could be the one that's right. I could be the one that's wrong, and I will happily eat my own words if that is the case. Kintick's out on top. Pokeball in second, Justin there in third. Oni Katsuni, I believe, is on a lap as well. He's actually coming down in towards turn number 1 right now. The team mental is a man who's there in 13th. Tajin there in 6th position is actually furthest on a lap, I believe, as well. He's actually 53.5 in the middle sector, so pretty much on par with what we saw with Leo. He looks like he's on a set of used compound tyres as well. Judging by the front right, certainly looks like they're blistering, already above 20% tyre wear. So, as you mentioned a little bit earlier on as well, the tyre wear doesn't really take effect around this track because it's only around 4 or 5%, I think, on average per lap around here. Even on a set of soft compound tyres, it's quite minimal. So the drivers, I think, have got to be worried more about conserving their tyres a little bit later on, especially if they're going onto that set of softs later on, which I don't think they will. But if they do, then they have to conserve the tyres as we go through. We could easily see the guys on a set of mediums even go beyond, what, 2/3 race distance.
Yeah, there's definitely potential. It's one of those tracks where there is kind of open to kind of what your preference is in terms of strategy. There is a lot of options here. You can run the softs, like you mentioned. The softs are a viable tyre here in the race if you can keep the temperatures down, but there's not really many corners to get the temperatures up. So it's definitely it could be a strategy, especially if you're expecting an early or a late safety car. Then having a fresh set of softs will be vital around a track like Monza. So that'll definitely be a strategy that some of these drivers can go for. But like you say, you can run 2/3, maybe 3/4 race distance on a set of mediums. So it is a very interesting race. I think this is going to be one of the ones where you see maybe a bit of a split between the mediums and the hards at the start, I would say, because the hards at the start of this race here, while they're not a bad tyre, in one racing side by side, which you see a lot at Monza, the hard tyres are going to be really low on grip, especially the first 3 laps of the race. The traction from the hards is not going to be great. They're going to be very unstable. So unless you're confident on the hard compound tyres, it's not really the best call for the start of this race. So yeah, you may see a few people go for the mediums at the start of this one, especially people maybe a bit further down the field who want to gain places early, then maybe benefit from an early safety car. So yeah, we're just in a little bit of a lull stage of this qualifying session because those that just did their laps are coming in and those are now going out for their first laps in the session. Papine is on a lap for the moment for NLR, 26.1 in the first sector. Not a bad first sector from them, but I don't know if he's on a fresh set of tyres or not. Same as Spicer, 0.2 in the first sector for them. Middle sector is a 4 flat, which isn't really that fast, I don't believe, for Spicer. So not looking particularly fast. In fact, he's backed off completely. He's not using his ERS. So he's backed off, whereas Papine 52.9 in the middle sector. That is a good middle sector from Papine. So I'm maybe inclined to say Papine might be the first driver out there on a fresh set.
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, judging by the front right, to be honest, it doesn't look like he's on a worn set. But as per what we've seen, obviously, with the likes of Max Van der Geist a little bit earlier on in the session. But Papine there in 10. Spicer, by the way, made a mistake coming to the Della Roger chicane. That's why he's backed off his lap. Papine now on the run to the line. Third, if that is on a set of used tyres, that is a good actual lap on a set of used tyres. I don't think it is. I think it is on a fresh set. But he goes there third, ahead of Alpha there, who's there in 4th. But Kintick's there out on top, Pokeball on second, Papine there in third. Halfway through qualifying here, Urpak, I believe, is just starting on a run. He's actually on a run, 53 flat in the middle sector. Spicer as well down in 10th position. He'll go for another one. That 32.2 is definitely not going to get him through into Q3. If it does, I'll be very, very surprised. Everyone could invalidate him behind as Urpak goes for a huge spin. Coming out of Parabolic, a full 360 round. And Urpak literally didn't touch anything in terms of the curb, just had a full rotation coming out. Give him 10 for the save there with a full 360, but in the end, style wins out over substance, and that is Urpak back in the pit lane as a result of that spin.
Yeah, you could definitely tell he was on a used set of tyres, couldn't you? Because that wasn't a particularly fast lap, and then a very dramatic spin at the very end of it. So he is in. Lucky to get away with not hitting anything, so he can continue on in this session. So yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. I wish we could kind of properly tell who was on a used set and who wasn't, because the kind of the detail that we have about best laps and all that kind of stuff doesn't really tell you whether anybody's on a used set or not, because it's only really relative the amount of laps they've done in this particular session. As Spicer goes to the top, that is definitely on a fresh set of tyres. A 19.6 for Spicer. That is a good lap, actually. That is much better than what Spicer managed in Q1. So lovely lap time on his second lap on that set of tyres after having backed off the first one. So maybe it was a tactical back off of the first lap. Maybe he just wanted to burn off a little bit more fuel and then go again with a slightly lighter car. But good lap on the board there from Spicer. We've got more drivers on laps at the moment. Pokerall's on another lap. He is 2/10 up in the middle sector in the Ferrari. So he's finding a bit more time on this next lap at the moment as he heads through the Ascara chicane and then down the back straight towards the Barambolica. So he should theoretically go to the very top of the timesheets. His teammate is currently P2, just crossed the line in second position. More drivers crossing the line. Now Timo's gone P6 at the moment. That's not safe at this point in the qualifying session, but here comes Pokerall round the final corner and up towards the line. This should go to the top of the timesheets for the Ferrari, and it does. A 19.5, that is a good lap on the board. He is comfortably through.
Yeah, he is indeed, and Pokerall, I think, has put the pressure off him, and I think Max van der Geist is honestly through as well. I think VLT are going to get both of their cars through. Leo now goes quickest, 19.3. That is the definition of a fresh compound tyres, as is that from Justin with a 19.1. Oni Katsuni on board with 52.8 in the middle sector. He's looking actually quite respectful on his lap. He looks to call around Kintix, Max van der Geist, Papine, that sort of area, I think, in terms of this lap. The team entered and cars want to try and get their way into Q3. Of course, they've had both teams, but the last time I think this pairing had, they both got into Q3 in that Belgian qualifying session, as you mentioned a little bit earlier on. Oni Katsuni now on the run to the line for the French outfit, on the run, and he goes fourth, and that might just get him through on Pokerall there. 19.5, but as more improvements come, Max van der Geist, they're not improving. Kintix is purple in the middle sector, so he might be one to watch out for here. The FEL man currently in 7th position, but Justin out on top, Leo in second, Pokerall in third. I've got to be honest, if we see big improvements from everyone further down the field, the likes of Tajin, the likes of Alpha, the likes of Yona, and they all begin to get up in toward the mid-119s, the likes of Pokerall, the likes of Oni Katsuni are then all of a sudden in trouble potentially. Kintix now comes to the line, and he goes third and puts more pressure yet again on Pokerall. Even more pressure on Leo, because he's only 1,000th of a second off him, which is not too bad at all. But just now on top, Leo second, Kintix there in third, with around about, I think, 4 minutes to go in this qualifying session. The yellow flags in Sector 3 are blocking my view of how much time we've got. Yeah, about 4 minutes to go, just now on top. Leo in second, Kintix there in third. But this is where it really comes down to the nitty-gritty. Urpek is now beginning up the lap for NLR, and at the moment, Urpek, after that spin, really needs a lap.
Yeah, definitely really needs a lap now. He's obviously gone a little bit early to give himself some clean track, which he's got an abundance of, but he needs to make sure that this lap is risk-free and mistake-free and can get him through. If it's based on his pure speed, he should be able to get it through no problem, but of course he can't make a mistake on this lap. He's got to get it done now, so as he heads through the Curva Grande, that's the one, I nearly called that the Parabolica. Everything sounds kind of similar in my mind, but yeah, he heads through the first sector and 26 flat in the first sector. That is a good first sector from the McLaren. This should be a solid lap if he can keep it on the road, and he should be comfortably through. But what that does do is knock his teammate closer to the danger zone. Papine currently P8 at the moment, likely P9 once Urpek has done this lap. That's not great for Papine. I think he is definitely on the bubble. Timo, another one as well, who needs to get a better lap in to see himself through into this session. And we've still not seen Yona or Fraser on a fresh set of tyres yet, so we don't really know what they're capable of. Leo's also not left the pit lane for ILT at the moment, so he is another one who's leaving it to the very last moment to try and get through into Q3 then, as the Urpek heads down the back straight and up towards the Parabolica. It should be a decent lap on the board. This could potentially go fastest as he heads through the final corner now, keeps it to the right-hand side for the shortest run. In fact, extends the line a little bit out just to make sure he builds up some momentum, and then cuts to the right up for the shortest run to the line. Urpek crosses the line. Oh, yeah. It's not quite fastest, but it is a 19.1, and he will be comfortably through into Q3.
Yeah, somebody that isn't as Alpha, I think he's just started up on a lap, I think, the QLT man down in 12th position. He looks like the one to be struggling. Justin Nawad on top, Urpek in second. Urpek is comfortably through into Q3. He may as well retire on track. I mean, if it's allowed in the rules, he may as well retire out on track, because that is him done out of the session. I know that isn't allowed in the rules, so if he tries that, then it's wishful thinking, and NLR will have to give themselves a penalty as a result, as Alpha now comes through this end of the first sector. 26.3 is respectful, but it's not up there in the first first sector being seen on the 26 ones and the 26 twos, as we've been seeing so far. Leo there is on a lap as well. Fraser, I believe, is on a lap. He's actually coming towards the final couple of corners, I believe, just to start on a run. 53.4 out of that middle sector. On his personal best, Alpha gets caught on the curb on the Lesbo too. Now on the run down the curve at El Savalio in towards Ascari once again, and he lost too much time off that outside curve, but unfortunately for Alpha, he is now back off his lap. He's down in 12th, and he is in the danger zone. And you know what, Aiden? He is not going to get another lap unless he goes for another run now, which I think he has to. If he comes in the pit lane now, that's his session over. So he doesn't want to do that whatsoever.
Yeah, he's going to have to go straight away once again on this lap. Obviously, the tyres were maybe a little bit warm in his car. He's not got a full battery of ERS, so that could hurt him coming out the final corner on his fast run. He is going again, but yeah, he's not looking all that comfortable. The first sector is a great tell as well of what kind of setups drivers are running. If you've got a really good first sector, you know that car is good in a straight line. You've got the entire pit straight, really. You've got the braking zone for turn 1 and 2 at the De La Rocha chicane, and then you've got all the way through the Curva Grande with no DRS, of course. So the fact that if you've got a good car in a straight line, it will be even better when the DRS is not open. So that is a good tell of someone's straight line speed, and Alpha's quite slow in the first sector compared to what we've seen so far. So that suggests he slightly improved that time around, but that does suggest that Alpha's maybe got a car with a bit more downforce on it than some other drivers in the field. So maybe just a bit more comfortable with a little bit of downforce on that car. So he heads through the middle part of the lap. This should be potentially where he picks up the most time, slightly improved in the first sector, as I mentioned, by just under a tenth of a second. But still, at the moment, that is nowhere near enough to get him through this session. I think pretty much everybody now is just starting their final runs in the session. I don't think anybody is ahead of him on the road that is starting a run at the moment as he heads through Ascari. Good middle sector, though, from Alpha, 3/10 up. So all of a sudden, potentially throwing himself into potential of getting through, depending on what he can do in this final sector then as he heads up towards the parabolica at the final corner. Can he get a good run through the final corner? And if so, can he get potentially that QRT driver into Q3 from looking like he wasn't really ever going to be anywhere near as he heads up towards the line now, keeps it to the right-hand side, crosses the line, and he goes P7 on a 19.5. So there's potential there, but that then makes the drivers like Oni Kitsune and Pokerol look even more under pressure that Alpha can do a 19.5, and we still don't think that is safe. Oni Kitsune is on another lap. He is slightly up, but Pokerol's down.
Yeah, Leo, I think, is the first to come across the line. He's a 9. He was a 52.9, I think, in the middle sector. He goes 9th. He's in trouble. Max van der Geist as well is on lap as well. He's in the middle sector. Papine's in the middle sector. Timo's backed off, so Timo's actually invalidated on his run. He's definitely going out. Tajin through the middle sector as well. At 500s up. Yona now runs the line, goes 6th. He's comfortably through, I think, into Q3. But then again, we've got Pokerwall potentially improving. Spicer goes 7th. Big improvement from him. 10th and a half up on his previous best. Pokerwall has spun coming out of Parabolic because he is going to be out potentially here. If Max van der Geist, Papine, Timo or Tajin, any of those three can improve. Certainly 2 out of those 3 can improve. He might be in trouble as Max van der Geist comes to the line, goes 3rd, puts Pokerwall now down at 9th. Papine now on the run through the final corners. Timo, as a reminder, has spun. Also an improvement there, I think. That was from Oni Katsuni. It goes into 6th. Good lap time from him. Papine at 13th. Ooh. Disappointing from his perspective. And in the end, the cutoff was exactly where I put it. Well, I think, to be honest, we can both take that because it's a 19.593 in terms of the improvement. But just now on top, Erpek in 2nd, Max van der Geist in 3rd. I mean, so let's more focusing on the drivers that we're going to get through rather than not get through. The top 3 are covered by 300ths of a second at the end of Q2, which is absolutely remarkable. It brings the close nature of racing here and the close nature of the qualifying session, of course, here in Monza to complete play. A 10th of a second separating Alfa and Tajin at the end of that session, but he's just now on top. From Erpek there in 2nd, Max van der Geist there in 3rd, Leo there in 4th, QRT got both of their drivers through as well, Kinsix in 5th, for Mentalisms are Oni Katsuni in 6th, Yona there in 7th, Spicer there in 8th, Pokerwall in 9th, Alpha there in 10th, Tajin out along with Leo, Papine, Fraser and Timo. So at least I got 2, maybe even 3 out of the bottom 5 right in my prediction anyways. But Alpha there in 10th, scraping through by a 10th of a second. But the top 10 covered by 4/10 of a second. Big improvements to come, but again, FBR topped the session for the first time actually here tonight in Italy. They topped the session for the first time, just an add on top. Erpek there in 2nd, and now it could be that age-old battle with one NLR driver out, both FBR drivers actually in. Could be that age-old battle once again.
Yeah, definitely could. There's a lot of drivers that kind of went up and down between Q1 and Q2. I'm looking back at the Q1 times that we just had. Great recovery in Q2 for Max Van der Geest. He was on a 0.8 in the first qualifying session. He's ended up 0.6 faster in Q2, so a good lap there. But On the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm really surprised by IRT Leo being knocked out. He did a 0.7 in that session, not a great lap, but he managed to do a 0.3 in Q1. So he ended up losing 4/10 between Q1 and Q2. So I'm not sure what happened there for IRT Leo. He was, in my opinion, he was a shoe-in for Q3 after that Q1 result, but yeah, nowhere near in the end, and ended up getting knocked out by quite a margin. So not quite sure what happened there for Leo, whether it was a mistake or whether he was on a slightly used set of tyres, we don't know. But yeah, IRT Leo, I think, is definitely going to be one who's very perplexed by that session to drop 4/10 between Q1 and Q2 and get knocked out.
Yeah, unfortunate for him, the team man there down, I think, in 12th or 13th position, I think, at the end of that qualifying session. But it brings a thing potentially into my head as well. Maybe they've just gone too early in terms of their efforts and they haven't managed themselves into Q2 mentally and physically. And I think that is the real difference because most of these drivers, let's be fair, are used to doing 18-minute qualifying session rather than just Q1, Q2, and Q3. So maybe that has just brought in to their mind. Leo as well, that was his first session, I believe, at IRT, actually for the NLR Esports League. So again, mentally, he might have not been totally there. The QRT man of Leo, they're down in 9th position. He managed to get through just by the scrape of the teeth along with Alpha. Good qualifying session, though, from the man in P9 and the man currently in P6 there for QRT. They have got both their drivers through. Have, of course, FER with Kinsix and Justin, both VRT drivers through Pokeball and Max van der Geist. Only one for NLR, only one for GSP, only one for Mentalism, and only one for JR. I did say Yona could have a potential outside chance of pole position. Well, here we are. But I should really not doubt myself sometimes. Urpek, though, was the first man out on track as he now comes through the right hand of Parabolica, or Curva Alboreto, however you like to call it, as Urpek now is on the run toward the line, and on the run now down in towards turn number 1, where you can see in excess of 220 mile an hour sometimes on the run towards turn number 1. He's not going to be too far off that, I don't think, in towards turn number 1 at the Richfield chicane, 218 mile an hour on the brakes, in toward the right hand of turn number 1, to the left hand of turn number 2, and then now down in towards the Curva Grande, or Curva Biasono at turn number 3, and this is looking like a so far good lap from Murphy. Do not want to ruin it whatsoever. Touch wood, this is a good lap from the NLR man. Coming through the first sector split, 26 flat. I think one of the quickest first sectors I think we've seen all night. Zerpek now just messes up the Dolomite chicane slightly, but this has looked pretty good so far. Just lost a tenth of a second there slightly. He now comes through the first Lesbo, now in towards the second Lesbo once again. And Urpek flying his way through the NLR man, the sole NLR man with Papine, of course, out in Q2. Urpek now carrying the weight of the NLR completely on his shoulders. He comes now through the middle sector split, and Urpek 52.5 in the middle sector is by far the quickest middle sector we have seen so far tonight, as he now comes through the left-hander of the Ascari at turn number 10. This is a huge lap from Urpek. It's almost as if the track has just been lit by fire and the tarmac is literally burning underneath the soft compounded tyres as Urpek now comes through Parabolica. This is looking like a potential pole position up already from Urpek as he now comes toward the line. We're going to get in the 18s, I think, here on the run to the line. 19 flat from Urpek. Big statement that from Urpek, and the NLR man has put himself early on with a very good chance of pole position.
Yeah, very good, but I think Justin might be about to beat it potentially. Oh, not quite. He lost the time in the final sector, but Justin was matching Urpek in the first two sectors, lost it in the final part of the lap, but great lap on the board there from Justin as well, a 19.1, just under a tenth of a second off a provisional pole right now. Seeing Yona up towards the line now. He crosses line only P4 and a 19.9, and I'm suspecting that's on a used set of tyres potentially for the Alpine drivers. We're seeing more drivers on laps at the moment now as well. Alpha's done a 26.1 in the first sector. Leo's coming up towards the end of the second sector now for QRT. So we'll see what his middle sector time is like. He's been good all session long.
Wow.
About 52.4 in the middle sector. That is a brilliant middle sector from Leo. Can he nail the final part of the lap? Could this be the first time into the 1 minute 18s of this session? That is a brilliant middle sector from Leo. It's been about Urpek and Justin most of this qualifying session so far, but Leo for QRT trying to see if he can steal a march in this qualifying session through the Parabolica, then keeps a tight line, doesn't go all the way to the end of the exit of the road. He wants the shortest run to the line, comes up towards the line now. Is it going to be a 118 for Leo? Yes, it is, an 18.9, and in the end goes over a 10th clear of Urpek. So brilliant lap on the board there from Leo as he crosses the line. Can anybody match that? Then his teammate Alpha goes P4. So great start to Q3 so far for QRT, looking pretty strong.
Yeah, looking really, really strong indeed. Leo, of course, a PSGL F6 man, believe it or not. I'd love to take him in PSGL F2, or even Aiden for PSGL F1, I think, at this stage with that lap here in Italy. Might just be a one-off, but Leo's out on top, the Italian in the lead so far in Q3, from Erpek there in second and Justin now in third. And QRT, remember, he is Italian, so he's on his home track basically here. Of course, we've got Imola also on the calendar, but Leo there, out on top, doing the Italians proud. The Tifosi will not be happy because the Mercedes currently out on top. Max van der Geist, however, might have something to say about that, as I was watching on board with only Katsuni, but he's backed off his lap through, I think, an invalidation in the first sector. Max van der Geist in the first sector, 26.2. They can make up pace as they go through the lap, especially through the middle sector and into the final sector, because it's so pacey, the final two sectors around here. But Max van der Geist, 26.2, already with Leo with a 26 flat and slightly slower than Erpek in the first sector, and Erpek sent a 26 flat. Already, some of the guys, the ones that are setting 26.1s, 26.2s, they're already on the back foot, even before they've really set foot in their lap. And I mean, Max van der Geist is a 53 flat pretty much dead on in the middle sector, going nowhere near in terms of what we've seen with Leo and Erpek. And that, I think, just speaks volumes into how quick Leo is, how quick Erpek is, and how lacking so far, with only halfway gone in qualifying. They can improve, of course. Max van der Geist is certainly in VRT. They are lacking at this early stage in qualifying. So comes now through the final couple of corners on the run toward the line here in Q3 with Max van der Geist, and he actually goes slowest out of everyone. That is disappointing from the VRT man. Pokerall as well in the lap, 52.9 is respectful. He's actually quicker than his teammate in the middle sector. Oli Katsuni has actually got onto another lap, I think, along with Kintig in the lap as well through Ascari. But Pokerall now on the run toward the line. He goes into fifth. That's more like it for VRT. Kintig through the middle sector, 52.6. But as I say, they're already on the back foot just from that first sector alone.
Yeah, the first sector really seems to be setting some of these drivers apart. This track is all about confidence on the brakes, of course. So many heavy braking zones around here, and with no, of course, downforce really on these cars. You've got to try and be confident as you can in these quick direction changes. Great final sector from Kintix in the end to go just behind his teammate on 19.1. So if you can find some time in the middle part of the lap, there is definitely opportunity for Kintix to still be in this fight for pole. It does look like a four-way fight though, doesn't it, between Leo, Erpek and the two FVR drivers, Justin and Kintix. No one else really seems to be on the same level playing field at the moment in this qualifying session. And I think by the looks of it, I think Max van der Geest had to use two sets of tyres in Q2. So he's using a used set to start this Q3 session, which is why his time's a little bit down. Same with Jonah as well for Juventus, which is why their time's a little bit further off the pace, but still they haven't really looked like they've been able to get the pace out of it immediately in every session. It always seems to take them a couple of runs to get up to pace. Oh, we got a mistake.
No, Erpek 25.9 in the first sector. Purple out of everyone in the first sector. Where on earth does that come from in the first sector? My word. Absolutely blistering. He made a mistake coming through the Delarod chicane there, so it might have just cost him a bit of time. But a 25.9 in the first sector is talking like esports level, I think, sort of racing around here. Mad opening sector from Erpek. Middle sector, 52.2. He's on an absolute one here. And Erpek is flying. Now coming through Ascari, right on the limit. Beautifully done. Nearly invalidating coming out of Ascari. He has taken every inch of track for an absolute gibbon here. And Erpek is on an absolute stormer. This is pole position right here. Coming through the final couple of corners. Coming out through Parabolica. Covered via somebody. Runs wide slightly. Not going to cost him much time. Erpek now to the line. An 18.6. 18.7 in the end. He cost a little bit of time in that final sector, but my God, that was quick from Erpek. Leo and Justin, if they can find time, they're going to be there or thereabouts, but Erpek for now, on pole position, with only 3 minutes to go, everyone now is put on notice and everyone now has to deliver.
Yeah, that is a massive lap from Erpek. The car looks so hooked. The Ascari chicane was incredibly impressive. The fact that he was able to throw that much speed, use so much curb, use all of the road and not invalidate. That was inch perfect through Ascari. That was a mega lap from Erpek. I don't even think he can improve on that time set himself. So that is a massive time from Erpek. We'll see if anybody can get close to that, but it's going to have to be a massive effort from anybody else to get close to that time. So I don't really see anybody going faster than that unless we get an even more mega lap. And I don't know if anybody has it in them to be able to pull that off. That is massive. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Erpek retire from the session in the pit lane at the end of this, once he's into the pit lane, because I think for him, even if it isn't pole, I don't see how Erpek can do much more than that, because that car was glued to the road.
I'll tell you what, I'd want to be NLR right now, and I want to be the fly on the wall, just sitting there in the room, Whoever came up with that setup, my word, you've got a fantastic setup there, and Opek could be potentially a world beater with that. That was unbelievable. But now, the pressure is on everyone else. Opek, I don't think is going to... Well, he could get out for another lap if he wants to, but it's only going to be one run. And even if he does, it's a very quick turnaround, so he's only going to have 20 seconds to play with, I think, when he gets back out the pit lane. Everyone is now coming back out the pit lane. One of the Mercedes, I think, is first out on track. I think it might be QRT Alpha, no, it's QRT Leo, the Italian there, in second. Erpek the out on top, Leo there in second, Justin there in third. Frankie is saying exactly what I'm thinking in my mind right now. The last sector was not good. It looked scrappy, especially coming out of Parabolica, coming out on the exit of Ascari. It looked scrappy. He could improve on that lap. And if he does, we're talking about 18.5s, 18.6, which I think I've never ever seen on this game cycle before, which just comes to show the absolute talent that Erpek has got around here in Italy. Yes, he hasn't been up there in other races for this team event, but here in Monza, where it matters both, he absolutely thrived there. But Leo then second, first man out on track, first man under pressure from Erpek, who's retired in the pit lane. He thinks he's done enough. Leo, if he can iron out his mistakes in this lap, I think Erpek's made a bit of a foolish mistake there.
I don't think he has. I think it did look a little bit scrappy, that final sector, but I think that's genuine because he was pushing so hard and he was on the limit. I don't think it was scrappy, but it wasn't slow. It was not a slow final sector. He improved on his personal best in the final sector of the lap. I don't think he's made a mistake here. I think he went out, knew he had the confidence in him, and went out when there was nobody else out on track. Stole a little bit of the limelight and has put in a mega lap. I don't think anybody's going to get pole position here. It's going to take it off him. If it is, it's going to be a special lap. Leo will be the first to start their lap, so we'll see what Leo can do in the first sector, whether he can improve or not. Justin and Kintix a little bit further down the road, so Leo will be the first of our genuine front contenders for pole position to see if they can get anywhere near Erpek in the first part of the lap. 25.9 is one he's got to beat. He's slightly up on his personal best, but it's still only a 26 flat in the first part of the lap as he heads through the Della Rocha chicane, looking quite nicely there through the two Lesmos. Now, can he get it hooked up? It's not quite turning into the apex of the first part of the Lesmo, so he heads into the second Lesmo now, gets the car turned in quite nicely, uses all the curb on the exit. It's a nice and neat lap from Leo, but hasn't got the speed to go with it. Nice and neat in the middle part of the lap then as he heads up towards the Ascari chicane. The second sector split, what is it? It's a 52.4, it's down. He's nowhere near. He's 2/10 off in the middle sector off of Erpek's time. He's not fast enough in the middle part of the lap. It looks neat, but he wasn't carrying the speed with it. Erpek's lap looks a little messy, but he has so much speed going behind him as Leo heads towards the final sector of the lap now. By the way, Alpha has spun on his lap coming out the second Lesmo. He won't be improving on P5 as here comes Leo around the final corner, but I don't even think this is going to be improvement on his own personal best potentially for Leo as he comes up towards the line now, crosses the line.
Wow.
They improved by 2,000ths of a second. But yeah, nowhere near in the end. Justin is a 10th up in the middle sector, but still nowhere near.
Yeah, Kintix is up in the middle second, but he's nowhere near either. That lap from Erpek is very special indeed as Justin now comes through the final couple of corners. It's now who's going to start on the front row of the grid. Could be Justin on the run to the line. Doesn't. 7,000ths off him. Kintix is down in the middle sector. He's now through the final couple of corners. Alpha, you mentioned, has spun. Max van der Geist, and also Kintix has gone for a full 360. Coming out of Parabolica, unfortunate for him. Max van der Geist in the end, I think, invalidated, so he didn't. He backed off his lap and obviously came across the line out of time. Let down in 10. Kintix recovering the car. That is him out of the session. But Erpek, that special lap was the one that was for pole position. They'd say it was pole position. Erpek out on top from Leo there in second. Justin there in third. Scoreboard was up on the left-hand side. Apologies, I was just running a ball with Kintix there with that lap to see how he was improving on that run. But Erpek there out on top. Leo there in second. Justin there in third. And Erpek 2/10 ahead of everyone else for the lap that could have found a 10.5 to 2/10 of a second in that final sector alone. And we could have been talking about potential PSGL F1 pole position. And I'm not even being funny with anyone. That could have been PSGL F1 pole position right there. An 18.5. Unbelievable. Unbelievable lap. Tato the man to thank with the setup king, as he's called there from Wizzy. Erpek there out on top. From Leo there in second. And it seems like it's an Italian 1-2 as well, which I think is going to delight the home fans. Justin there in third, Kintix there in fourth. FBR, I think, playing second best so far in that qualifying session. The race, though, was now more important. Oni Kitsune in fifth, I think, the total underdog in that Q3. Brilliant performance from him in fifth. Alpha there in sixth from Spicer in seventh. Pokerwall there in eighth. Yona in ninth. He'll be better in the race, I can guarantee that. Same with Mac van der Geist, down in 10th position. But Erpek out on top, Leo in second, Justin third, and my word, if Erpek is on fire like he was in qualifying, he is going to take some beating.
Yeah, he is definitely going to take some beating. That is a massive time, especially around a track like Monza, where we always see the gaps being incredibly close. That is a mega lap. And we always talk about how sometimes the neater laps, the more composed laps, are the faster ones. Sometimes that's the case, but sometimes it is not the case. That car was all over the road, was that McLaren, but he was carrying so much momentum. And that is what this track is all about, is carrying momentum through those chicanes and through those sequence of corners, that he was just able to carry so much momentum through the corners and onto the straights that, yes, it looked messy, but there was so much speed with it. That is an absolutely massive lap from Erpek. He's going to take some beating in this race, definitely. So, but while it's great for him, it's a great performance for him. Thinking of course, this isn't a single driver championship; it is a team championship, and teams perspective-wise, good qualifying still for FVR, our championship leaders, locking out the second row of the grid. Good for them. So that will help them obviously potentially extend their points lead in the championship going forwards, especially with Papine a little bit further down the field for NLR. NLR, of course, FVR's closest rivals in the championship at the moment. So yeah, while it's great for OPEC and a great qualifying session for them, FVR still coming out on top in terms of teams.
Yeah, and these are the team standings, by the way, coming into tonight. We are waiting for the 30-second countdown to come on board, so we can run through the standings. FVR on top on 154 points. Of course, they picked up 4 points in qualifying so far. They've added to that, of course, with that result here tonight, and 10 points, of course, for the race. I believe that was on the sprint, if I'm not mistaken. FVR, the lead on 154. NLR in second on 116. JR there in third on 102. They've got a mountain to climb if they want to try and beat NLR, I think, here tonight. Of course, we do have a race next week as well, which we'll run through at the end of the qualifying out of the race session here. QRT in 4th on 50, VRT there in 5th on 50 as well, ERT in 6th on 44, Team Mentalism in 7th on 39, and then the battle for 8th and the battle for the Wooden Spoon going on further down the field. GSP in 8th and 16, along with PGS and IRT, who are in 9th on 15 points. We will take you back to the on-track action quickly, Aiden. 15 seconds. What do we expect here in Monza?
Carnage. I'm thinking it's turn 1 usually, but we get the carnage, but this racetrack is very narrow, so I think the racing could be a little bit interesting.
It is going to be very, very much interesting indeed, and hopefully it makes for some fantastic, fantastic racing out on track. Here we go, the 5 red lights now coming on. Erpek and Leo on the front row of the grid. 5 red lights are on, and it is lights on, away we go, and Leo gets a better start than Erpek, and Erpek's actually jumping all over the place after the start, and Leo's going to be side by side with him, even in towards turn 1. The QRT man has got a phenomenal start, and he's now on the inside line, in towards turn 1, to try and hang him on the outside line, but in the end, Erpek goes deep, and much too deep on the brakes, and he's gone absolutely wide in towards turn 2 and 3, and Leo now is through, and he's into the lead. Erpek there in second, Justin there in third. That look up there from Erpek costly, and he's already 6 tenths outside of DRS on the back of Leo. Here is Justin on the back of Erpek, though, looking to the left-hand side to try and get the move into the Delaware chicane. He's not going to get the move done. Somebody is, though, further down the field. Thought there was Alpha on the back of Kintix. Tajin and Yona are side by side to the Delaware chicane. Great move by Tajin. He's doing his in tonight. The head of Yona there, who's dropping the position down in 10. Stretch and Ruhan are having their own private fight at the bottom end of the field. But Leo, phenomenal start from him. He had the second phase of the start better. Brilliant start from him. Erpek there in second, Justin there in third. Everyone else is on a set of hard compounded tyres, bar the man in 16th position on a set of soft compounded tyres with Marlon, who's all over the back of Timo, running now down the curve at El Salvadio in towards the Ascari chicane. Timo realises that. He's saying, no, I'm not even getting involved in that battle. Marlon through, he's into 15th. Set of soft compounded tyres, though, Aiden. Interesting to say the least.
Yeah, very interesting call for Marlon. I think he's potentially thinking of an early safety car, so he wants to gain as many places, and then when the safety car comes out, he can pit for a set of hards and go to the end. I think that is his strategy. He was at the very back of the field anyway, was Marlon, so it makes sense to try something a little bit different, but across the line we go. Justin on the back of Erpek here, trying to force Erpek maybe to have a go at Leo for the lead of the race. Erpek's going to try maybe, and he's going to try and hold back a little bit from Leo at the front, and he does, but Justin using a bit of that ERS to try and see if he can force Erpek into making a move or making a mistake. So yeah, Erpek it wasn't a bad start from Erpek by any stretch of the imagination. Leo just got a slightly better start and was alongside, and then Erpek, all on his own, completely outbroke himself and missed the corner. So that one was fully on Erpek. Great driving from Leo. As further down, Papine, the other NLR driver, getting past Yona. Yona has not had a great start here. He has dropped quite a few places off the line. Don't know if there's potentially some damage on that Alpine that we can't see, but Yona is down quite a few places in that Juventus Alpine. He's continuing to fall back. In fact, Marlon, who started dead last, is only 2 places behind him now.
Yeah, and he's only going to be one position behind him now, because there he goes on the inside of Fraser into Lesville too. Fantastic move from Morland. He's gone too deep though, nearly on the gravel. That's going to have Fraser a chance, but I think Fraser not enticed by that battle whatsoever. He's into 13th there, Marlon. Yona, by the way, got absolutely obliterated. Well, not obliterated, but there was contact in towards turn number 1 with him and Max van der Geist. Max van der Geist was on the inside line for turn number 2. There was just that slight bit of contact. Pulls Yona out wide. Pepine had a phenomenal run on him around the outside of Curva Grande, and that's what led to Yona dropping the positions there down in 12th, but he is not comfortable at all. The JR man, as I say, that no assist, even calls coming from assist to no assist, he's really struggling. I wonder if he's got side pod damage potentially on the car. If he has, he's really struggling, because there's Morland passing him down the straight, and the JR team now separating themselves out on track. Oni Katsuni on the back of Alpha further down, further up the field, I should say, as well. Oh, and there's a bit of decent contact there as well, I think, from Oni Katsuni on the back of Alpha. Just about gets away with it, but Oni Katsuni lagging for me slightly. Alpha there jumping about slightly. I think that's more from Oni Katsuni's perspective, though, however. And Alpha there in 5th, dropping now out of DRS ranges again. Fraser and Leo are now having a private fight further down the field. Very good start from everyone further down the field as well. Leo looks the inside line and Fraser doesn't get the job done. And there's a car down the escape road, and that's Pepine, I think, down the escape road. No, it's not. It's Marlon who was down the escape road, went too deep on the brakes into the Delaware chicane. Pepine there through, and he's into 11th. Marlon there in 12th, still coming out ahead of his teammate Leo, Erpek, Justin, and Kintix, 4 for the lead.
Yeah, 4 for the lead at the moment. Alpha dropping back a little bit there as well. Alpha, I don't think that was contact actually from Alpha. I think plainly Alpha just locked the rears in the braking zone for turn number 1, because at the very next chicane, Oni Kitsune did the exact same thing. So a lot of these drivers on the hard compound tyres struggling in the opening phases with the brakes and getting the car stopped for these heavy braking zones. So yeah, not great for the everybody 5th on down that Alpha has lost DRS range to the top 4 already, but that was kind of the way it was in qualifying. The top 4 looked comfortably clear of the rest of the field, and it's looking the same way in the race. Oni Kitsune's car is fast in a straight line, even without DRS on the previous lap. He was nearly able to pull alongside Alpha. So Oni Kitsune, look at the straight line speed of that Haas as he comes up to the back of Alpha, who has no DRS, of course. But Oni Kitsune easily going to breeze past and back up into 5th. He started 5th, lost the place at the start, but he should be able to breeze back past and into 5th place here. Yeah, Alpha doesn't fight it too hard. Oni Kitsune is back through and up into the top 5 places, and immediately on the traction out of the corner, it blitzes nearly 6 seconds up the road, 0.6 of a second up the road. So yeah, lovely move there from Oni Kitsune. He's got a great car in a straight line. Here comes Spicer as well, trying to see if he can make it 2 places lost here for Alpha. Alpha's going to park it in the middle of the road. Spicer can't find a way through. He sits behind in 7th for the time being.
Yeah, he does indeed. Bit of a slide there as well from Pokewall in the background. Just a slight mistake, losing a 10th of a second or so there. Marlon all over the back of the time, but he's now not going anywhere on that sort of soft compounded size. That was the problem, I think, with them on that sort of soft. They don't last that long around here, even though it's low tyre wear. You start on the sort of softs around here, they wear quite thinly towards the end of the lap, as Erpek there on the back of Leo was looking to move there on the pack. I was getting excited for a second, but the NLR man just going to wait on the back of the QRT man. The QRT man currently out on top, and I think it's the first time, I think all season, we've seen a QRT team lead, apart from, I think, an overcut strategy in Hungary, if I'm not mistaken. Leo there leading the way, from Erpek there in 2nd. Leo there out on top, doing a phenomenal job. The Italian outfit still hanging on out in front, but Erpek is going to have a go at him in towards turn number 1, and normally around here, it's normally a case of, oh, we don't want to take the lead of the race off you, but I think Erpek does. Erpek wants to try and force the pace now out in front, but the danger and risking the pace is his tyres. His tyres will be more worn compared to Leo and Justin, especially if they're just sitting behind as well. There was a move, I think, further down the field. Was it Max van der Geist, I think, on the back of Pepine? I think it was. He's through. He's into 10th. Pepine there in 11th as well. Very good start from his perspective. Tajina side by side as well. Pokewall just on the back of him for now. In toward the Delaware chicane. He's trying to find a gap somewhere to go to the inside line. And Pokewall moves across in the braking zone there slightly on him. Tajina there on the outside line. To be fair, they got away with that just about. But in the end, Pokewall moving across into the braking zone. I think from a team mentalism perspective, I wouldn't be happy with that.
Yeah, they got away with it, like you say, but that was on edge. That was very on edge for Pokewall there. That could have been a big crash if that was any more than that. But what that has done, that little move, is dropped the Ferrari out of DRS range to Spicer in front. So can Tajin just get the move done around the outside of Ascari? He's going to go the long way around. But again, Pokewall's moving in the braking zone, and Tajin is forced onto the grass a little bit, and Tajin has to go wide. It's aggressive defending. They're getting away with it for the time being, and here comes Max trying to get through, and then Tajin's going to try and return the favour almost on the other VRT driver, but he is through. But yeah, Pokewall's defending there, getting a bit too aggressive. He's moving one way, and it's fine to move back to the braking zone, but if you're going to move back towards the braking zone in the corner, you've still got to leave the cars with space for the car that's alongside you, and Pokewall didn't do that into Ascari, and he didn't do that in the chicane earlier on in the lap in the Delaware chicane either. So yeah, if I were Tajin, I would be annoyed by that, especially now he's lost some ERS in the battle. And now here comes Papine trying to get a move done down the inside into the chicane. Could he get the move done? Tajin will have the inside line for the second part of the chicane, but the NLR driver should get the better traction out of the corner, you would imagine. It's fairly similar side by side. Papine, Yona behind here could get a very good toe behind the pair of them, but the problem for Tajin now is he used a lot of that ERS trying to get past Pokerall, and has now not got past, and then has been overtaken by 2 cars behind and lost more ERS. So for Tajin, that slight move into De La Roja actually cost him big time.
Yeah, it did cost him big time, and I totally understand the team game from the VRT perspective, but when you do it twice, it doesn't really sit well with me, and hopefully that'll go in their record book, I think, for later on in the season to try and improve on, certainly with moves into the braking zone there. But Pokerwall in 8th, Max van der Geist there in 9th. Marlon there trying to make ground as well. He's on the back of Yona. There's also moves potential from Timo and Fraser further down the field. There is a move for Stretch on the back of Pappy, and Pappy now becoming a mammy further down the field, down in 19th position and 20th. They are fighting for the wooden spoon as Tajin. His race goes from bad to worse, and there's also a spin, I think, from Krypton in the background there as well. He got skating into the wall. I think he's lost his front wing. Yona as well is letting Tajin back through and actually tries to attack him once again into the Parabolica. Not sure what's going on here with Tajin. He's made a mistake again coming out of Parabolica. It's now Tajin hunting now, it seems, and he's getting chopped up by the rest of the field at this stage. Yona there now, with Leo now all of a sudden on the back of these guys, and Tajin is dropping like a stone through water at this early stage in the race. We're only on lap 7 out of 27, and now could lose another position to Fraser in the braking zone of the rest of field chicane. Leo Thuni's into 13, Tajin there in 14, but Tajin is getting absolutely hunted like a spring chicken, I think, at this moment in time. In 14, Timo 15, Fraser in 16, there was a yellow flag, and that is stretch round, I think, coming out of turn number 1 at the rest of field chicane, and that is also Alpha round, I believe, or he's just been overtaken. He's made a mistake coming out of the Delarod chicane, and that is Spicer through, and he's into 6th, all kicking off.
Yeah, it's all kicking off now as Driver's starting to get a little bit more aggressive, some of their overtakes, and yeah, Spicer threw it up into 6th, Alpha down to 7th, so he's starting to drop a little bit. Pokerall now right behind the Mercedes driver as well, and yeah, poor Tajin, I think Tajin's been bullied at this point. He's kind of all over the road, being taken out by Juventus cars and VRT cars and NLR cars here, there, and everywhere. So Tajin, I think, not had a great couple of laps. He's not going to be particularly happy with how that's gone down, but he's still not out of it as of yet. He's got plenty of time to re-catch up and to manage himself and get back into the play in this point in the race. Meanwhile, it is very calm at the front of the field. Urpek leads, but the fact that Urpek now leads is kind of spreading the top 4 out a little bit more. Of course, Leo in the lead, they were kind of within 3 or 4 tenths of one another. Urpek leading means the gap is just starting to spread out, and now they are starting to pull away ahead from Oni Kitsune. Oni Kitsune was kind of leveling the gap as, Alpha coming down the inside of Spicer into turn number 1. Little bit of contact, they just about get away with it, but Alpha too heavy on the throttle coming out the corner. Pokerwall's going to get a move done, and they make contact, and Pokerwall's rounding into the wall. Alpha is round as well. Typical Monza racing, it kind of happens, doesn't it? People getting too trigger happy on the throttle, and around goes Alpha, takes Pokerwall with him, contact as well there. And there's more contact going on now as Fraser and AJ Wuhan are side by side. One Kitsune spun completely on his own from P5. He's had a spin now. It's all kicking off. Everybody's falling apart.
It's like somebody's put oil on the track and everyone's just spinning for absolute measure out on track at this stage. Oni Kitsune has spun, as you mentioned there. Tajin's just gone off track as well. And now Timo, all of a sudden, is now well within the fight on the back of Oni Kitsune. Don't know what on earth is happening really in this race. Alpha there down in 15th position as well. He's now struggling right down the back of the field. Leo there on the back of Marlon. As I say, it's just opened up a whole can of worms, I think, this race so far. Up the front end of the race, there's nothing really going on. Urpek, Leo, and Justin currently in the top 3. They're making the break, I think, for the airport at this stage, judging by the action that's happening further down in this race. And look at the gap that the top 4 have got compared to Spicer and Max van der Geist. All of that battling has been happening behind. It's 5.2 seconds. It's going to be even more down this race. Marlon's into pit lane. He had a moment coming out on the last lap out of that Parabolica, so there's no surprise he's actually in to the pit lane. That again is very late for Max van der Geist this time around on the brakes. Spicer was trying to move across and everything on the brakes. With more Max van der Geist trying to attack him, trying to find a gap that was impossible to try and find. And now Papine all of a sudden is on the back of these guys. Yona on the back of these guys as well. But Urpek leading, Leo in 2nd, Justin there in 3rd. I think for the first time in this race, Aiden, if I'm not mistaken, Urpek's now beginning to try and bridge Leo outside of slipstream and outside of DRS range as well.
Yeah, he's definitely looking to potentially bridge the gap, and the thing is as well, Urpek's not using a lot of ERS to do it. Leo's actually used more, so Urpek's showing that quality pace and it's to start to stretch that gap a little bit more. What Urpek really needs is for Justin to try and move on Leo, because the minute you start racing side by side at Monza, you use the heap of time, and that is why the top four are so far ahead of the rest of the field at the moment. Here goes Max past Spicer, much easier move this time around. Max is through and up into P5 and past the GSP Aston Martin, and into fifth place is the Ferrari, so he can continue on now. Pepine is just behind as well, ready to make a move if he can get past as well. As there's another spin, that's One Kitsune around again. What a shame for One Kitsune. He was having a really good race in P5, and then all on his own with no other drivers around him, spun on his own, and now is spinning again. I don't know what has happened between that lap and now, but for some reason he's just decided that he just wants to start spinning everywhere, because that is a really bizarre mistake to be making 2 laps in a row when the first 8 laps of the race he looked in complete control of that car.
It's almost as he got caught on the outside curve. Oh my word, Spicer's going to absolutely dive bomb central on the back of the VRT man, and Max van der Geist is getting far too aggressive out on track. And I think drivers with these teams certainly involved need to tell them to calm down out on track. I'm certainly willing them to calm down. And also in all of that, we saw a move for second position, because Justin got through on Leo down the straight in towards turn number 1. So Justin through and he's into second on the back of the FER man. And this is giving Kintix now a very good chance on the back of Leo. Maybe Leo was gone too early on that sort of hard compound of tyres at this stage. Marlon is through on Kitsune further down the field. Of course, Marlon came in the pit lane and on that sort of soft compound of tyres. And the way the race is actually working out, Aiden, Marlon there in 17th on that sort of hard compound of tyres. Everyone starts making contact ahead of him. We get a safety car. He's on a fresh compound of tyres compared to everyone else. We can suddenly get a safety car and all hell will break loose. Marlon could potentially be, I would think, top 5 in this race.
I think actually the last thing Marlon needs now is a safety car, if I'm completely honest, because everybody will pit for a set of mediums and he'll be at the back of the field. I think if he wanted a safety car, he needed it in the first 5 laps. He's not got it, so now he can just run to the end of the race and hope that everybody in front keeps fighting and he can gain. Oh, Pepine going for the move at the Parabolica. That is a weird place to try and get the move on Spicer. He'll have the inside line, but is Spicer better in a straight line? And Spicer's got the toe with the Ferrari in front, but Pepine is using a bit more ERS. They're both closing in on Max just in front. One Kitsune has spun again, and this time is out of the session, so that could be that safety car that we were mentioning, and it is. Safety car is out, and I think Pepine got the move on Spicer into turn 1 just as it came out, so Pepine is through and up into P6 past the Aston Martin just in time for the safety car. And just as we were talking about the safety car, it's come out. I think that was the last thing that Marlon needed. He needed the safety car about 5 or 6 laps ago. He needed now for it to go green for the next 10 laps so that everybody in front could keep fighting and he could gain the places by running on his own and getting faster lap times. That is not going to be the case, and everybody in front of him is now going to be on fresh medium compound tyres.
And he's also going to be caught up by the safety car coming out of the pit lane as well, and if he's not too careful, that safety car moves. He would have been getting disqualified from that race there, but Marlon is lucky. Everyone, though, I think the thing that's going to help him is everyone has actually gone round on a lap and they haven't been caught by the safety car. That is the only, I think, saving grace for Marlon. But he's only going to be, as you say, he's only going to gain in limited positions, probably around Timo, Alpha, Fraser, that sort of area. I would think he'll try and gain in towards the positions. But Urpek, Justin and Leo now the top 3. Kintix there in 4th is hanging back, and he's only hanging back for one reason and one reason only. He wants to not double stack coming in the pit lane. He's got a 7-second gap. He's got more than enough time to actually just back off completely, stop out on track, and then come in the pit lane. But he is going to have to double stack, unfortunately, with his teammate for the FPL because he hasn't left too much of a gap. Max van der Geist, however, because of that gap, has actually begun to catch on, and Jonas trying to overtake Spicer into the pit lane there on the brakes. Nearly got caught. Everyone, though, going on that sort of medium compound tyres out on track, but however, thought I saw somebody staying out on track, but they're not. And Pappy's in, Krypton's in, yeah, everyone is in from the top 16, and Marlon has to stick that delta time. Urpek leads the way, Justin there in 2nd, Leo there in 3rd. Stretch, by the way, was a lap down. He's now unlapped himself out on track, but this is possibly the worst news for everyone, I think, at this stage. Unless Stretch is going to be let through by the safety car, which he is. Thank goodness for that, because I was about to say, if he's not let through by the safety car, he would have been in the front, right at the front of the lead of this race, and he would have caused absolute chaos for everyone.
Yeah, he definitely would. That would have been unfortunate, but yeah, he's lucky there that everybody pitted and he was in close enough range to still take the kind of the de facto lead under the safety car and able to unlap himself. So that saved his race somewhat, definitely. I'm kind of surprised Marlon stayed out, if I'm completely honest, on those hard compound tyres. I think compared to a set of mediums now to the end of the race, we're going to be going at half race distance. Marlon's going to be a sitting duck on those hards compared to the mediums. The mediums are going to be so much faster. I don't think there's really any point in Marlon staying out, if I'm completely honest. I think he should have just come in, gone to the back of the field, and we know that his raw speed will get him through the field anyway. So, yeah, not quite sure why he's decided to stay out in that sense. I would have come in if I was him. But for the front of the field as well, for Kintix, he really didn't need to back off because the gap was so big, that's Max in 5th, that it didn't matter if they double stacked. They had so much of a gap over the rest of the field that they would have been fine anyway. So that's worked out quite nicely for FER that they've been able to double stack and not lose anything in that pit stop phase. But yeah, this is such a weird top 10 now. Apart from the top 4, everybody else seems to have had some sort of incident or something in this race. It's been so bizarre. Really, really weird race. And now we've got likes of people like Leo, IRT Leo inside the top 10 who struggled. Yona had a really bad start to the race, but has recovered well up to 8th. Tajin, despite all of his dramas, is somehow still inside the top 10. Not sure how. Timo, from relative obscurity at the back of the field, is now up to 11th with a shot for point. So really bizarre start to this race so far. Hopefully it calms down a little bit and people aren't as aggressive in the second half of this race. But yeah, some of the racing got a little bit too aggressive, and I found for a track that's not particularly hard on tyres or hard on tyre management or tyre temperature, why we saw so many people spinning is kind of beyond me, because this is not really a track you see a lot of spins at on their own, apart from maybe on the exit of Ascari. But if you're running kind of on your own, like a driver like One Kitsune was, it's not really difficult to manage your tyres around here. So I'm kind of surprised we saw so many people struggle, as Alpha has hit the back of Marlon under... Yeah, has he got damage? I don't know if he's got damage or not, but he has... Yeah, he has definitely got a penalty, though. So Alpha's going to be coming back into the pit lane.
Yep, Alpha left side end plate damage. I think it's just run into the back of Marlon, maybe in towards the braking zone of turn number 1. Marlon there in 12. Alpha didn't get away with that, unfortunately. Left side end plate damage on the car. Marlon, as you can see, is weaving the tyres up, warming the tyres up to try and get them up to temperature. But Alpha, QRT, unfortunately, going to be going further down the field, it seems. Certainly with Alpha, he could honestly stay out. I think also Krypton had a slight mistake coming out of Ascari and lost the position to Pappy, if I'm not mistaken. But everyone is backing up, and I think it's Timo and Agent Tajin that are actually backing up the pack ahead. So I wonder if there was a backup in towards turn number 1. Just a Constantino effect. And Alpha was not looking where he was going, ran into the back of Marlon. Marlon then got forced possibly into the back of Timo. But look at how close they're running. Timo's right on the back of Tajin. Marlon right on the back of Timo. Another wonder that somebody has ran into the back of each other and picked up a 5-second penalty. But looking at the position gains currently out on track, Papina's gained 6. Big position gains from him. Marlon's gained 8, of course, after that sensational start on that to the softs, and then he fell by the wayside in around lap 4, lap 5. 6 positions gained, as I mentioned, for Papine, 5 for Max van der Geist, 3 for Leo, 4 for Timo, 2 positions gained respectively for Wuhan, Pappy and Krypton, along with 1 position gained for Justin, who's in 2nd, Spicer, who's currently in 6th, Yona, who's in 8th, and Tajin, who's in 10th position. Most positions lost. Pokerol really lost positions further down the field after that early spin. Alpha is into the pit lane to replace his front wing and to come in potentially for a set of medium compound tyres again. He only have to force onto this compound tyre, I think. At this stage, we'll see what tyre he's going to go on. He will have a front wing change. Set of mediums, I think, are out there. 5-second penalty being served up as well. So that is now what could have been potentially. The good news for him is Stretch is coming in the pit lane, but I think he's going to be ahead of him once he comes out the pit lane. But Alpha, what could have been a 5-second pit stop has now turned into a 13-second pit stop, which is going to cost him, and that costs him now because Stretch is ahead of him.
Yeah, it cost him big time, but I think the good thing for Alpha here is that we know that this race could get chaotic, so he can kind of sit back and watch it and pick off places here and where. It's sometimes starting at the back of a safety car can be a blessing in disguise at some circuits. I think this is definitely one of those tracks where starting at the back of the field potentially isn't that bad of a thing, because you're going to see a lot of people going for moves and potentially a lot of mistakes. So not over at all yet for Alpha. There's still a chance for points. I am still perplexed as to why Marlon has not decided to pit, because we've now spent 2 laps under the safety car. We'll get going now at the end of lap 14, start of lap 15, but that's only 13 full speed laps on a set of mediums. That is more than doable for the medium compound tyres around this track. So it's not as if the mediums are going to fall off by the end of the race. Marlon's just on a worse tyre, and I don't know why he hasn't decided to pit and do the same as the likes of Stretch and Alpha and just start from the back. He would have only lost 5 places maximum, you'd say, which in the grand scheme of things around a track like Monza isn't that many.
Yeah, it isn't that many indeed. The safety car, though, is coming in this lap, which means Effect is now the virtual Burmalander. He's now the virtual safety car. Justin will follow him until his heart content. Leo there in behind as well. We saw off the start of a standing start how Leo was good on the back of Erpek. Is he now going to do the same thing off a rolling start? Of course, they're going to be going at quicker speed because it's a rolling start, obviously. and Leo is there in third. He's on the back of Justin. Justin obviously got that move done just a couple of minutes ago, but Opek now coming through the final couple of corners. He's now on the run towards turn number 1 once again. Has got a good restart, but not as good as Justin. Justin's actually using up ERS on the exit of Parabolica. Could give him something to think about in towards turn number 1, but in the end he's not. Pine is going to go side by side with Spicer as well, certainly in towards turn 1. Good stop by the NLR man. He's on the inside line of turn number 1 on the back of Spicer. We'll turn the timing tower off on the left hand side just to see this move. But Pine to the inside line and Spicer. Bit of contact there from the Aston Martin. Little bit of a rebound effect there as Pine rebounds on the back of him. Goes to the inside line now through Curva Grande. And still side by side has actually got the move done. So Pine through and he's into 6th. Spicer there in 7th. And now Yona is involved in this mix as well. Krypton past Pappy further down the field as well. They're actually side by side, I think, coming through Curva Grande. And now coming through into the De La Rocha chicane once again. Alpha on the back of Stretches on the back of him, but not quite close enough. Erpek leads. Justin there in 2nd. Leo in 3rd. Good start from Erpek. In the end, Justin gave him something to think about, but in the end, Erpek too strong. And now beginning to pull away 4/10 for 2nd.
Yeah, good restart there for Merpek, and I think for the saving grace of the rest of us, he went quite early. We see a lot of drivers go late here at Monza to try and make the field compressed into turn 1 and to spread them out, but he actually went early, and that kind of benefited him quite nicely. But again, look at the top 4 already starting to gap the rest of the field straight away as Stretch is our first driver with the track limits time penalty down in P18 at the moment. Look at Kintix though, right on the back of Leo for that final spot on the podium, seeing him fired away through. Yona unfortunately has left the session. That is really unfortunate for the Juventus driver. He's going to plummet through the field now and out of the points. That is really unfortunate. But what about Kintix? Is he going to go for the move on the back of Leo up towards turn number 1? They are burning their ERS to try and get this move done. As they head towards turn number 1, it's going to be a late move down the inside. He's late on the brakes, but has he got the move done? Leo should get the better run through the exit of the corner. Kintix is not going to be able to get this move done. No, he's not. Leo shuts the door. Kintix burning a lot of ERS to try and get the move done, but not able to do it. Leo still holds 3rd, but you can tell Leo is kind of struggling to keep pace with the drivers around him at the moment. He's dropping back from Erpek, and Justin Kintix is all over the back of him. I think it's only a matter of time before the FVR driver's through.
Yeah, and Yona, by the way, his AI has decided to pit him into the pit lane. So he's down in 19th position, all the way down the field. Justin run on the back of Erpek, though. It's just a matter of time, potentially, for the race lead to change, as the FVR man is on the back of Erpek. Yona has left the session again, so he's obviously having disconnection issues, it seems, at this stage with his connection. Maybe it's more of a local thing than it is an actual lobby thing. But Erpek leading the way. Justin there in 2nd, Leo there in 3rd. Coming through Ascari once again. Oh, a bit of a slight slide there from Justin. Erpek does the same on the exit of Ascari, and they're both eyeing each other out once again in terms of their mistakes. But Erpek leading, Justin in 2nd, Leo there in 3rd, Kintix there in 4th. Doing a good job at this stage. Max van der Geist there in 5th, Papine there in 6th, and Spicer, Leo, Tajin and Timo top 10. Marlon, Fraser, Wuhan, Krypton, Pappy top 15, Pokerwall, Stretch, Alpha, and Yona further down the field. And the DRS now enabled as we go into lap 17 out of 27, 11 laps to go. Yona there down in the back of the field, down in 19th, and he's probably thought, well, my AI's coming, brought me into the pit lane, I'm not even going to bother with this race anymore, and I do not blame him whatsoever, as Pokerwall through and he's into 15th on the back of Pappy, gets the job done on him, so the Ferrari through and he's into 15th, and that will make the Tifosi very happy indeed, as Yona is back in the session again.
Yeah, I think Yona's just going to try and come in and hope that there's a safety car at some point to bring him back into this race. But yeah, it's all settling down just that little bit at the front of the field. It's kind of taking a little bit of a back seat, the racing, just a little bit until we get to the latter stages where people will start going for the moves at the end of the race to try and secure some more places. Nobody really seems to be close enough at the moment to make a move. Everybody currently is within DRS range all the way down to 18th place and Alpha at the back of the field. The first driver that looks under pressure the most, you've got to say, of dropping out of DRS range is AJ Wuhan in 13th. He's struggling a bit to keep up with Fraser and Marlon in front. Fair play to Marlon, doing well so far on those hard compound tyres. He's held on to 11th place at the moment as Stretch and Pappy go side by side down the field as well. Stretch is now up into 16th position after being a lap down only a few laps ago. He's back up into 16th, so great recovery for his race so far that he's been able to get that lap back as we head on to lap number 18, 10 to go. Now then we cross the line, and Erpek doing as he did in the first stint and just starting to pull away a little bit from second place without burning any ERS at the moment. And Kintix has stepped back into line as well in P4. He's not going for the move at the moment on Leo, so he's just sitting in 4th, I think, waiting for the right moment. No one at the moment seems to be close enough for a move down this straight. I say that actually Fraser going for a move on Marlon for P11, PGS driver down the inside, gets the move done nice and easy on Marlon, and Krypton and AJ Wuhan. Krypton gets a lovely move done on AJ Wuhan at the same time, so AJ Wuhan down to 14th, Marlon down to 12th on those hard compound tyres, and Fraser dropping to 11th.
Yeah, lovely move by both of them. Fraser through and he's into 11th on Marlon, and that was a beautiful move on the brakes for Marlon. Absolutely class move from him. He's 13th. GSP man there ahead of AJ Wuhan. He was doing a solid job actually in the race. I thought they might have just been under the cosh from their qualifying performance IRT. They're in 8th and 14th as it stands, but only one of them are going to be picking up points, and that's the man currently in 8th position at this stage. Burpek leads the way, Justin there in 2nd, Neil there in 3rd as we go on towards lap 19 out of 27 here in Ascari. Doing in towards Ascari, doing a phenomenal job, I've got to be honest. All of these guys out on track. Alpha's still involved in the mix further down the field as well. Yona has managed to rejoin the session, which I'm glad to report. He is under his own volition right at the back of the field, but everyone's in a big old DRS train. There's not going to be no catching for Yona, unfortunately, at the bottom end of the field. Unless, as you mentioned, there's a safety car, and it really opens up everything out as Alpha is side by side with Pappy further down the field in toward the left-hander now, or the right-hander I should say, the Parabolica. He just about gets the job done on the fresher tyres. Beautiful move actually by Alpha, coming out of Parabolica, gets the job done, might be under pressure once again from Pappy down in towards turn 1. These two have been having a very good squabble over the last couple of laps. Alpha again moving across on Pappy in towards turn number 1. And Pappy lunges him on the brakes. That's a little bit too late on the brakes. It's a bit like Hamilton and Verstappen. They haven't been contacting each other. They nearly do, though. And in the end, they have. And Alpha's ran. Pappy there. That could have been avoided. Pappy, he was going to think about waiting up for him. And then he's thought, nah, I'll escape the scene. I'll take the hit. Pappy there in 17th. Alpha in 18th. And it could have been avoided. And I think that's more on Pappy's fault than it is on Alpha's.
It's hard to say, really. I think it's 50-50 with both. I think Pappy needs to back out of that one, but Alpha also needed to give more space at some points down the straight as well. I think it's far too hard racing for 17th position, isn't it? Far too hard racing, as Marlon now picks up a 3-second time penalty, as well as AJ Wuhan, so they've picked up track limits penalties. And now Marlon is starting to feel the effects of those hard compound tyres. He's fallen behind Fraser. He's dropped out of Fraser's CRS range. AJ Wuhan, oh, big snap of oversteer from AJ Wuhan. I don't know if that was contact with the Ferrari, or whether that was just on the brakes. But AJ Wuhan spinning now through the gravel at the Ascari chicane, and Pokerell's up to 14th in the process. But yeah, Marlon really starting to struggle on those hard compound tyres now. He's dropped off the train and he's fallen further down as AJ Wuhan spins again, I think, trying to get back going again, coming out the Ascari chicane. And again, yeah, really struggling to get the power down on those very dirty tyres. But yeah, Marlon really starts to struggle. Now here comes Krypton. It's going to be an easy move down the straight. There you go. Krypton flies past down towards turn 1. Nothing Marlon can do. And I think right about now is where we're going to see Marlon regretting that decision to stay out on the hards. Because while it was fine in the early phases of the restart, now that the hard tyres are starting to wear, they're losing all of their pace and he's just falling further and further down the field.
Yeah, the mediums, I think, certainly going to be coming into play. Alpha's left the session further down, so he's actually came in the pit lane as AI has come in to the pit lane to go on to the soft compounded tyres. I think he's had enough of that race, probably frustration more than anything else. I totally understand that. We've all been there in league racing. But at the end of the day, there are safety cars potentially on hand still in this race, and they'll bring the fat pack together. So I think he might have missed a trick there. If everything now began to kick off ahead of him, then he is looking like an absolute fool. But Earthquake there leading the way, Justin in 2nd, Leo there in 3rd. I mean, QRT, to be fair, I'm saying that. I mean, QRT, Leo's in 3rd, but he's not keeping up with the front two. He's now under pressure from Kintix in behind, and Kintix has got a good amount of ERS to burn. 51% of EOS coming down now in toward Parabolica, 28% for Leo. So Leo has got minimal EOS to try and defend off here on with Kintix in 3rd and 4th. And Kintix already on the throttle, coming out of the final corner. He's good in a straight line as Kintix, so he might even think about this move down towards turn 1. He's burning the battery all the way down towards turn 1, turns it off halfway down the straight, and he knows that he's not going to get the job done. Yona picks up a 3-second penalty further down the field. His race has just gone from bad to worse, I think. Right down the back of the field, lap 21 out of 27. Urbeck leads the way, just in 2nd. Leo there in 3rd, 7 laps to go. Out on track with Kintix on the back. There was a slight change, by the way, to the point system that I've just seen. IRT got a fastest lap point last week, so it doesn't really make a difference, but they're on 16 points instead of 15, which I've just noticed there in the Discord chat. But Urbeck there leading the way, just in 2nd, Leo there in 3rd, and now all of a sudden we begin to get an element of control over this race, and Urbeck is doing well. Justin though was managing his EOS better, and I think that's what might win him the end of the race.
It definitely will, yeah, but I think Justin needs to be a lot closer than he is now to even think about going for a move yet on Urbeck, and we've talked about it a lot in real life racing. We've talked about it in league racing a lot as well, that drivers leave it to the very last minute to try and get the move done to make sure that they don't give the driver that they've overtaken DRS down the next straight. But sometimes you leave it too late and then the opportunity goes. But yeah, Kintix on the back of Leo is going to go down the inside. Leo almost trying to DRS chicken him. They've made contact on the inside. Kintix just hit the curb on the inside, bounced off the curb and into the side of Leo. I think Leo definitely left him enough space. It was just unfortunate contact. Kintix is round, and that is a disaster for FVR championship-wise. That is advantage NLR in the championship. Leo now under pressure for Max, who's going to try and go down the inside and steal a bot on the podium all of a sudden. Down the inside goes the VRT driver. Can he get the move done? They're still side by side on the exit, but the Ferrari will get much better traction out of the corner, and he gets the move done. So all of a sudden, Max is into a podium position, but keep an eye on Papine in the other NLR car. He's got an opportunity here to make it a double podium for NLR, and that would be massive in the championship fight for the teams, because FVR now very much on the back foot.
Yeah, and Tajin's just gone around the outside of the cover. Gwande as well on the back of Leo, so he's through and he's into 7th, defending that position very, very valiantly indeed. But Max van der Geist down into 3rd. VRT man is going to be under pressure though. He's got 22% of ERS. Leo's got 17. Papine's got 44. Papine is the one to watch out for in all this. Spy's on 20% as well. He is catching, but he is beginning to lose time now as a result, running down the straight with Papine and everyone in a big old DRS train. And now, bit of a box effect going on here as Papine looks to the inside line. Beautiful stuff on the brakes. Now forces Leo back to 5th. Max van der Geist now forcing the way. Now in terms of 0.8 of a second between himself and Papine, 3rd and 4th position as it stands. Spies are there on the back of Leo as well. Big race coming in with only 5 laps to go after this one. Urpek leads just in 2nd. Max van der Geist there in 3rd. But all of that, all of a sudden, from a DRS train 2 laps ago to now, Urpek and Justin having a private fight for the race, leading everyone else, falling in behind for 3rd. As here's Leo once again on the back of Papine, looking towards the outside line, maybe in towards turn number 1. The Mercedes on the back of the McLaren. Papine leaves him short of room, and to be honest, Leo got caught on the outside curb there. Might feel adjudged by that, the QRT man. Don't think there was room, but Papine moving across into the braking zone. That is a Jamesy no-no once again, and Papine on the back of Max van der Geist. He's doing a fantastic job, don't get me wrong, but Leo there in 5th could have at least been given a bit more space.
Yeah, so Papine almost completely goes straight into the back of the Ferrari in front. He's missed the corner. Opportunity again for Leo to have a move back at the NLR driver, but not quite close enough into the first les mode. But yeah, how the race has fallen apart for QRT in the last few laps completely. That is a real shame. I still don't think that there's really anybody to blame for that contact at Parabolica between Leo and Kintix, but Kintix obviously has come off much worse, down in 13th. He's still got an opportunity to get some points in this race as the FER driver, but he is way down the field now. And he's got Marlon to pass next. He's going round the outside of Marlon up towards the Escara chicane. Will get the move done, and he's up into 12th position now. Is Kintix on his recovery back through the field, but yeah, this is going to be a proper fight for the final spot on the podium now. Papine's got a great run potentially down the pit straight this time around on the back of the Ferrari to see if he can make it a double NLR podium. But again, Papine seems to be very late on the brakes, and more often than not at the moment it's costing him more than anything because he keeps missing the apex of some of these corners. He's got a bad run onto the pit straight, and again Leo is right behind, but Leo not using his ERS this time around. Papine isn't either, but he is closing in on the Ferrari in front very quickly indeed. He's going to go to the inside line on Max into the corner. They're going to go side by side through the corner, almost contact between the pair of them, but they get away with it, and Max holds the lead for the time being against the NLR driver. Leo right on the back again, seeing if he can get past the McLaren, but he's not quite close enough, potentially down to Della Rogia. He's just going to have to sit behind, and I think Spicer as well is just sitting behind this, hoping that these drivers make a mistake and come together and he can benefit from it.
Yeah, and Leo was making 2 moves there into the braking zone to try and get the move done. There's a mistake there from the Ferrari, and here comes the inside there of the McLaren, the NLR man of Papine, trying to get the job done on the back of Max van der Geist. Max van der Geist forced out wide through Lesbo 1, and Papine's through, and he's into 3rd. Nice move there by Papine. In the end, Max van der Geist in 4th. Leo there in 5th. I'm not sure if you caught something.
Yeah, I caught something there. It's just as I was talking about Spicer, Leon outbroke himself and ran straight into the back of the Aston Martin and sent them both across the chicane. Leon gets the penalty for his troubles as well, and Spicer missing the chicane just about gets away with it, but Max back through on Papine down towards his Escara because he got the DRS.
He did indeed. The IRT man as well of Leo's not entirely out of this fight as well. He's got a 3-second penalty. Penalties update, by the way. Well, we've got a little bit of breathing room. Leo on 3, Fraser on 3, Marlon on 3, Stretch on 3, Yona on 3, and Wuhan on 3 seconds worth of penalties as we go now on to lap 25 out of 27. 3 laps ago, probably no safety cars until this point onwards. Leo's trying to fight on the back of Papine. Papine now pulls the inside on once again, and Max van der Geist, who did get the move done last time around, but Papine, much later on the brakes this time, surely has got the job done, and he has. Papine through, and he's into 3rd, and the Belgian is absolutely flying. There's a car, I think, couldn't have crossed. That's Timo, I think, couldn't have crossed in terms of the escape road. Not sure if there was contact there with maybe Spicer or Leo or Tajin. One of the 3 was involved in there, and now Krypton all of a sudden is side by side there, the GSP man on the back of the Mentalism man, on the back of the ERT man, I should say, in 9th and 10th position. But my word, all of this unfolding down for third position. Urpek and Justin still having their own private fight, and it's becoming a bit tactical now between them both. It's NLR against FBR for the race win. It's exactly the two I was expecting to be fighting out the race win as well, but Justin has managed his EOS better. 18% more compared to Urpek at this stage. This is going to prove crucial. Final 2 laps of the race. He just makes a slight mistake coming out of Ascari, but in the end, Justin on the back of Urpek, and I think it's only going to go one way, and that could be in the FER man's favour.
He has got that little bit of advantage, but he's got to start using it now. There's only 2 laps left in the race. He's got to use 70% of that ERS. He's got to start using it now to put Urpek under a bit of pressure. Otherwise, Urpek's going to get very comfortable as Kintitz is back inside the top 10. He passes Krypton on the round down towards the Parabolica, so he is recovering some points in this race. It's the FVR driver, but Justin kind of now needs to win this race for FVR to help them in the championship. Otherwise, this is a big event for NLR to close back in to the front of the standings here. As here comes Spicer on the back of Leo for a shot inside the top 5. He's thinking about tapping to the outside, maybe to the inside, but he's going to go for the outside line on the Mercedes. Can he get the move done around the outside? Can he get done on the exit of the corner? There's a little bit of contact between the pair of them. I think they just about, though, get away with it. But here comes the other Leo of IRT Leo going around the outside. QRT Leo is completely boxed in on the inside. Leo's going to go around the outside. Can he get the pair of them on the run down towards the Delaroche chicane? He's going to have the inside line. Spies, I don't think can do anything about it on the outside. With QRT Leo too late on the brakes into the side of the Aston Martin, has spun the car. He is around and down into 12th position. QRT's race has completely fallen apart. It seems to be the story all season on for QRT. They have such a great race, and then it falls apart for them at the end. QRT Leo now out of the point. IRT Leo's up into 5th. Max van der Geist, was that made a mistake? No, that's a car. That's Leo. IRT Leo making a mistake out of the second. Lesmo, he's dropped back behind Spicer. Here comes Tajine as well. He's going to get the move done on the Red Bull, and he is through up into 6th place. Oh my word, it is kicking off big time, but we're just about to head on to the final lap. And look at Justin, only 2 tenths behind Urpek for the lead of the race.
Yeah, and Krypton Tajine has spun. I thought it was Krypton. Tajine has spun, coming through Ascari. That's unfortunate for him, but it's getting as feisty as the RuPaul's Drag Race finale at this stage. Urpek leads the way from Justin there in second, Pine there in third. Justin there on the back of Urpek, not getting the job done. Timo as well is overtaken by Kintix and Krypton, and I think they're actually 3 wide coming out of Parabolica there, and all of a sudden, Timo is literally shot out of a cannon. He's now on the back of these guys. Kintix is involved in this battle as well. This is unbelievable. 2 by 2. Noah's off they go. In towards turn number 1. Total the bit through the chicane. Kintix falls out wide there by Leo. Gets the job done though. And sorry, I was Krypton in fact. And no front wing actually for Leo. Leo has got no front wing whatsoever. And he's fighting 6th position. This is going to end in absolute tragedy, surely, for one of them. Possibly the man with no front wing. ERT team onto the inside line, and the RT team, of course, they're tied on points at this stage. Are both teams, sorry, ERT on 43, but IRT are tied with points. Further down the field, Kintix to the inside line now on the IRT man, and he's literally becoming a rolling roadblock out of track. This is absolutely unbelievable. What is unbelievable as well, Justin is still not on the back of Urpek. Will cut to the race lead. Aiden will follow that battle, I'm sure, and behind, and Justin's in the wall! Justin is in the wall, and he might even be off the podium. Urpek now takes the win by default, but Justin has got to get that car back going again. Papine and Max van der Geist are catching. All of a sudden, this could end him up out the podium. I think he's going to be okay. Urpek now to the line, though, through Parabolica, on the run to the line. Mullen and Fraser have had a collision as well further down the field, but Urpek wins from Justin, who's just about going to scrape into 2nd position after that huge moment out of the final couple of corners of the Ascari. Papine there in 3rd. NLR 1-3 on the podium. They will take that. FBR fell by the wayside with Kintix further down the field. He's very, very angry, I'm sure, at the IRT man with that no front wing. Down in 9th position in the end for the IRT man of VO. Krypton there in 10th. Tajine there in 11th. I did say it was going to get feisty. I didn't think I'd get that feisty on the final lap. Pappy, Yona, Wuhan and Alpha we wait on to finish. But Urpek wins. Justin in 2nd, Papine there in 3rd, and to be honest, even before Justin made that mistake, I was going to say he didn't look like he was close enough to get the move done, and in the end, he took 1 bit of the outside track limits. The track limits comes back to bite him. Luckily, he finishes 2nd. He could have easily finished off the podium, though. Urpek takes the win, absolutely deserved. NLR 1-3, they cut the gap to FER once again.
Yeah, they cut the gap big time, definitely. Justin's actually lucky he didn't retire on the spot there. That was pretty hefty contact with the wall on the inside. But I was so confused by Justin. I was following that battle for the lead on the final lap. Onto the final lap of the race, Justin had 50% ERS to use down the pit straight and was within 3 tenths of the race leader and just didn't use it. I'm completely baffled. He just did not use his ERS really on that final lap to go for a move. He just sat behind. It's almost like he didn't think it was the last lap. He thought, like, maybe he had 3 laps still to go in this race. He just decided to sit behind and not do anything, and then in the end makes his own mistake at the last moment, realizing maybe he did have to go for a move, and then makes a mistake. So really baffled by some of the choices in that race. It was again a really bizarre one. Erpek, though, what a dominant performance in the end. Even if he wasn't leading by much in the race and it was all in the DRS train, he had that completely under control and ended up leading by a huge margin at the end of it after that mistake for Justin as well. Brilliant performance from Erpek. Brilliant performance from NLR as a whole in the team as well. Papine, great recovery from a poor qualifying for him from, what was that, 13th on the grid, I think, up into 3rd position. Brilliant drive from him. As for the rest of the field, well, I think they're going to definitely have some explaining to do to each other, because some of that racing was interesting, to say the least. A lot of drivers as well making mistakes at the end of the race and throwing away good points. Tajin throwing away a 6th place finish for Team Mentalism, and in the end Mentalism get no points at all. PGS obviously no points once again for them outside of the top 10 with both Stretch and Fraser. Leo throwing away great points as well for QRT. What a weird race. What a weird race, but it's Monza. What did we expect? We knew it was going to be chaotic, but most of them ended up being people making mistakes on their own.
Yeah, which is the order of the day around here at Monza. Erpek takes the win from Justin second, Papine there in third, 13 third, fantastic performance from him. Max from Spicer in 5th, then Timo and 6th, Kintex in 7th, Pokerroll, and then Leo and Krypton ran off the top 10. They scored the provisional points. I'm sure that will change. Tajin, Moron, Stretch, Fraser, Leo top 15 along with Pappy, Wuhan and Yona, who all finished further down the field. I think in the end we had 19 finishers. Right at the back of the field there, of course, was the 2 Team Mentalism cars, I believe. I'm just going to confirm this for a second. Tajin, I've already mentioned. So Oni Katsuni was the man out of the race. And QRT Alpha, can't forget about him. They're down in 19th, but Oni Katsuni there in 20th position as well. Aiden said to me before the stream started, literally about a minute before, it was going to be interesting, Monza, and that certainly proved to be the case here. But, of course, we do go into what would be a break week, looking at the calendar, but we are going to have the rerun, I believe, of the Hungarian Grand Prix, I think it is the Hungarian Grand Prix that we are going to have. And with that being next week, the drivers have got to calm down from Monza first and foremost. But we saw with Hungary the first run of this race, which was technically voided because of desync. Hungary is a track which overtaking does provide, but it's a bit like Monza. One mistake and all hell could break loose.
Yeah, definitely is. And I think that we have kind of the opposite problem at Budapest in terms of the poor racing. In that Monza, there's so many overtaking opportunities that you get an abundance of overtakes, and a lot of them don't pay off. At Budapest, it's the opposite. There's really only one overtaking opportunity on the track, and that is turn 1. Maybe turn 2 if you're close enough, but that's more because of people already battling into turn 1. And because of that, people sometimes make desperate moves and you get mistakes. So yeah, Budapest definitely going to be an interesting rerun to see how that one goes compared to obviously the race that we saw. That race, of course, was dominated in that race by the ERT drivers, of course, wasn't it? That was a brilliant performance from Kira in there for ERT. So I don't know if he'll be back in the car again. I assume he will be back in the car again this time next week for Budapest. We'll wait and see. But that will be definitely a very interesting race to see if they can repeat that performance and get further up the field. So yeah, definitely going to be interesting winning Budapest next time out.
It is going to be very interesting indeed. And then, of course, we've got Singapore. My God, I hate Singapore. I'm going to I might just call in sick, I think, for that week. And Brazil, of course, the week after the traditional season finale, I think, in league racing these days. So that will be a very interesting race indeed. We are going to have to hop for it, though. There is real motorsport going on at this stage. British Touring Car, I think round 3 is going to begin in around about 40 minutes' time. So I'm going to get some nice food and get that done. Marlon was coming through, I think, saying hi to me there on the, that was weird, on the chat. I don't know what that was for. But anyways, we are now going to end off here, though. We've got to go, as I say. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, of course, for the Never Last Racing League, or the NLR Esports League, goodbye.